Hello UPSC 2027 English medium aspirants. In this video, we are going to cover the Vision IAS Monthly magazine. So basically this particular part will cover the April 2026 monthly magazine. Okay. Now let's start with the polity section. So the first section is related to polity, and in that the first current affair is related to Lok Sabha passes Jan Vishwas Amendment Bill. So in a very simple sense, let's try to understand this entire thing. Government want to improve the ease of doing business in our country. What is ease of doing business? Understand, a few terms are important from your exam perspective. One is EODB. What is EODB? EODB is nothing but ease of doing business. How convenient is it for any company to set up business in our country? Apart from that, there is one more term, regulatory cholesterol. Regulatory cholesterol basically means excessive regulation is acting as a barrier in the growth. Just like we have cholesterol which act as a barrier in the blood flow, similarly excessive regulation is acting as a barrier in the economic growth. So what government is saying, let's do one thing, let's simplify the rules and regulations so that people do not face problem in implementing these rules. Okay, so that is the entire issue. Now, for that purpose, the government has passed this Jan Vishwas bill. Now, in a very simple sense, the objective of this bill is to simplify the rules and regulation. That's one thing. Second thing, a lot of offenses are now decriminalized. What does that mean? Decriminalization basically means previously, let's say filing a paper, a particular paper, previously there was a criminal punishment for that. Let's say 1 year jail for that. Now government is saying, okay, instead of jail, just impose the fine. Even that fine is going to be in a graded manner. What is this graded manner? Let's say for the first violation, let's say there will be fine of 500 rupee. Then second, let's say fine of 2000 rupee, and so on. That is a graded response. Okay, so these are important things. Now let's have a look at the headline. Lok Sabha passes Jan Vishwas Amendment Bill, which focus on the decriminalization and rationalizing the minor offenses to promote the ease of doing business and living. Now you can understand this entire article on your own as well. Okay, so basically Lok Sabha passed this Jan Vishwas again 2026. Now, in this case, the approach is trust-based governance. What is this trust-based governance? In a very simple sense, the government trusts its citizens that they will follow the rules. For example, let me give you a very basic example. There is a concept of self-attested document. Self-attested basically means you are signing your document and you are saying that these documents are genuine and I am not providing any wrong information. That is basically trust-based governance. In a very simple sense, government is saying, okay, we trust you and therefore we will accept it as a genuine document. What would be alternative? Alternative is that, okay, get it attested from some government office and so on. So that will further complicate this entire process. So we have discussed the decriminalization part. We have discussed the omission of offense. That simply means previously certain issues were offense. Now they are completely eliminated. And then there is a graduated response. In a very simple sense, it is kind of graded response that based on repeated violation, the fine will be increased. Apart from that, there is a provision of voluntary compliance. Voluntary compliance basically means the citizens will provide information, and this is kind of an expansion of the social contract theory of Rousseau. Now understand, what is this social contract theory? First thing first, Rousseau has mentioned this in the book, and the book was basically introduced in 1762. The name of the book is Social Contract. Okay, in a very simple sense, citizens are going to give up certain rights. In response to that, government is going to provide certain services. That's a basic concept, social contract theory. Now what we are saying is that when government is governing, it is going to trust its citizens, just like the citizens have trusted their government, that this government is going to work for the welfare of the citizens. So that is the basic concept. Now apart from this, what else is being done? So one of the most important thing is digitization. So for that purpose, DPI is there. What is DPI? Digital public infrastructure. So government is working on the digital infrastructure so that services can be provided in a faster manner, in a time efficient manner, and there will be less concentration of the power in the hands of the bureaucracy. Okay, so that's why it is quite important. Now in that context, one portal is there, for example, for environmental clearances. previously the process was quite complicated. Now government have basically set up one portal. The name of the portal is Parivesh. So it can be directly asked that the Parivesh portal is related to what segment. So it is related to the approval of the environmental process or environmental clearance. Apart from that, there is a term DPI. What is DPI? In a very simple sense, DPI simply means that the government is setting up infrastructure which is digital. For example, UPI is there, ONDC is there. These are nothing but DPI. ONDC is for e-commerce, UPI is for digital payments. Apart from that, DigiLocker is there. This is similar to Google Drive. So basically it provides the facility to store your data. And then there is a app, Umang app, which will provide all these services at one place. Okay. Next topic is related to Census 2027. First thing first, please remember two things. One is caste survey and one is census. Caste survey can be conducted by the state government, various state government, for example, Bihar, Karnataka, Telangana, they have conducted their caste survey. On the other hand, census is in the domain of the central government. Okay. Now, 2027 census is going to be the 16th census. Now, just have a look at the headline which is mentioned in the PIB. World's largest census exercise begin with house listing and housing census. So first, in a very simple sense, we are just making a database of the houses. Okay. Now, in that context, this is going to be the first ever digital data capture. Digital data capture basically means that the data is collected through digital devices. Okay. Now, the moment I mentioned digital devices, you need to keep cyber security in mind. So that can be considered as a challenge, that how we are going to maintain such a large database by protecting it from the hackers. Okay. Now, apart from that, there's a self-enumeration facility. Self-enumeration facility basically means you can register yourself in a very simplified sense. Okay. And who became the first person to do so? So, of course, the president became the first to complete the self-enumeration. So, a very straightforward kind of statement can be asked, that who was the first one. And just to confuse you, examiner will write the name of the prime minister. Again, if you know this thing, usually the president is referred as the first citizen. So logically, you should be able to follow this information. So this is the president doing self-enumeration. Okay. Now understand 2-3 important things. Originally it was planned in 2021, but because of COVID it was postponed. That's one thing. Second thing is that it is going to be a first fully digital census. Third thing is that it will have the caste data. Now understand, at a lot of places it is mentioned that this is going to be the first census to collect caste data after 1931. Understand, this is partially correct statement. In 1931, caste data was collected and released. Based on this data, subsequently after Mandal Commission recommendation, the reservation was given. So this reservation of 27% to OBC is based on this 57% population. Just a second. Okay, so 27% reservation was given on the basis of 52% OBC population as per 1931 census. In 41, the data was collected, but it was not released. So data collection was done in 1941 census. After independence, subsequently SC and ST data was collected, OBC data was not collected. So that's why it is important. Examiner can set a trap here, and you need to remember that data was collected in 1941, but that was not released. Caste data I'm talking about. Of course, rest of the data is always collected. So this is something which you need to keep in mind. Okay. Now, basically, it is in the entry 69 of the union list. That simply means the central government can conduct the census. State government can conduct survey, but not the census. The term is quite important here. Examiner can simply set a trap here. Okay. Now, this is mentioned as per the 7th schedule, Article 246. And basically the apex level authority is that RG, that is Registrar General and Census Commissioner, which is under MHA. Again, there is one more possibility of trap. Examiner can set a trap that Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is the apex level organization for this kind of exercise. Please remember, usually for data, we have MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. But in this case, it is MHA which is handling this entire exercise. So you need to understand the difference here. Okay. Now, if we talk about the first synchronous census, so synchronous basically means at the same time the data was collected in the entire country. So it is kind of a coordinated exercise throughout the country. Okay, so that was conducted in 1881, and at that time the census commissioner was W.C. Ploden. So that is something which is a factual information you need to keep in mind. If the question is about first systematic non-synchronous basically means the data was not collected at the same time in the entire country. So non-synchronous was done between 1865 and 1872. If the question is about first synchronous, then the answer would be 1881. And if I need to discuss the number or facts related to this thing, so 2027 census will be the 16th census, and this will be the 8th after independence, and the authority to conduct this is as per the provisions of Census Act of 1948. So basically this provides the statutory backing to this entire exercise. Now, certain factual information again, for self-enumeration, 16 languages are there. Now, again, what examiner can do? Examiner can simply set a trap that all the languages which are mentioned in the 8th schedule, self-enumeration is allowed in all those languages. Now, if you don't know about this particular factor, then it will be quite difficult. So, an easy way to remember that this is our 16th census, and that's why 16 languages are allowed. Of course, there is no direct correlation. This is just a way to remember the information. Now, there will be two sub part of this entire exercise. First phase will be kind of house listing, and second phase will be the population enumeration. So in house listing, we are trying to collect the house data from April to September 2026, and the population data will be collected, or the collection will start from February 2027. Now understand, for caste, one more census is there, or basically a socio-economic caste census, SECC of 2011. Please remember one thing, that collected data, but that data collection was not properly coordinated. For example, people were asked to select their caste. In a very simple sense, someone will come and will ask your caste. Okay, you will tell the name of that caste. The problem with this approach is that the same caste can be known as different names in different areas. So what will happen? Caste A may be known as some other name in Rajasthan, may be known as some other name in let's say UP, maybe known as some other name in Delhi. So what happens is that there will be same caste, but it will be considered as a very different caste in different areas. And that's why what had happened, which is quite surprising, that roughly there were 41 lakh caste and subcaste group as per SECC, that is socio-economic caste census. And that's why basically this data does not make much sense, because you cannot have this much wide classification, and that's why this data is not in public domain. It is as per the media report itself. So you need to remember this. This is going to be 46 lakh exact data. This is 46.7 lakh caste and subcaste group were classified. Of course, that is why from policy perspective it is not that much useful. Of course, for other purpose, I'm talking about purely from caste angle, for other purpose, for example, providing benefit to the poor, in that case SECC is still relevant and it is being used. As per the 1931 census, we had roughly 4,147 caste. Next topic is related to AI governance and economic group. Now understand, the government constituted a technology and a policy expert committee, TPEC, to provide expert advisory support to India's AI governance architecture. Again, this is news headline from the PIB, and that's why it is often said that some sources are quite important for UPSC aspirants. PIB is one such source. Newspapers, especially the Hindu and Indian Express, their articles are quite important for UPSC aspirants. Okay. Now, in this case, there can be a question related to TPEC. What is TPEC? Okay, so this is going to provide the advice on the AI governance. Secondly, which ministry had set it up? So as you can see in the news itself, it is the MEITY, MEITY, that is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, that has constituted this TPEC, and it is advisory body. Second thing, what examiner can do, examiner can say that it is going to give binding advice, as usually they do. So just remember, this is advisory body. What kind of advice it is going to provide? It is going to provide advice related to AI governance. And for AI governance, there is one more body, that is AIGEG. What is AIGEG? That is AI Governance and Economic Group, and this is interministerial body. What is interministerial body? In a very simple sense, from different ministries. So why government is following this different ministries approach? This is basically referred as whole of the government approach. You can use this in your mains answer. If we have to tackle any problem, usually the problem is having multiple dimension, and therefore we need to collaborate with different ministries. This is basically referred as whole of the government approach, in which different department, different ministries of the government come together to address that problem. Now please remember that this body is going to be a 10-member body, and it will be chaired by the Minister of Electronics and Information Technology. Again, examiner can simply say that, okay, this will be either chaired by some secretary level official, or will be chaired by, let's say, by Minister of Science and Technology. But remember, it is under MEITY, not under DST. And the members include the principal scientific advisor, chief economic advisor, and CEO of Niti Aayog. Okay. Now, the moment you see the members, it is quite logical that if you see the higher level officials are there in this particular body, and that's why it is quite important to have someone of ministerial level to be the chairperson. And who is going to give advice? That is TPEC. Now, as far as AI is concerned, we have already covered this in our AI part, that is in the February 2026 magazine. Please read it properly. Question has been asked in UPSC prelims. If you are appearing for other exam, let's say CDS, CAPF, so in that also they can directly ask question from it, because it was quite important issue, and that is the AI strategy of India. So it is based on 7 Sutra. You need to keep that in mind. And as far as AI framework is concerned, it is Manav framework. Next is related to 131st Amendment Bill, which was defeated in Lok Sabha. So first, let's have a background of this entire information. 2-3 important things. Government provided reservation through Nari Shakti Adhiniyam, the provision of reservation for women, okay, in Parliament. Now, for that, there were 2 important conditions. One, first, there will be new census. Based on the data of that new census, there will be delimitation. So the argument was that it will delay the entire reservation thing. So in a very simple sense, first there will be census. It is going to collect new data. Based on that new data, there will be delimitation. Delimitation basically means we are going to redraw the constituency boundaries. And because of that delimitation, there is a opposition by the states who have controlled their population. They are saying we have controlled our population, and if you are going to readjust these boundaries on the basis of population, then of course we are at loss. Why we are at loss? Because they are saying that we have controlled our population, so we have less number of people, so our representation will be reduced. That is the entire argument. Okay, now so first there will be census, then there will be delimitation, and then there will be reservation. So that is the original sequence of event. Government said this is going to take too much time, so why not to implement this earlier? And for that to happen, this bill was introduced. The bill was 131st Amendment Bill, but it was defeated. See, for a bill like this, it required 2/3 special majority. That simply means the majority then normal majority was required. Okay, now the strength of the house is, again, I'm telling you few factual information so that you can understand it better. You need not to mug up it exactly. Of course, in some exam it can be used as a statement as well. Okay, strength is 528, so it got 298. The desired number was 352 votes. Okay, so that's why it was defeated. Now understand, we have discussed what was the problem with the 2023 legislation. The 2023 legislation provided that reservation will be given to the women. After the census, there will be delimitation, and then there will be reservation. So the sequence of the event is CDR. What is CDR? C stands for census, D for delimitation, and then there will be reservation. That was the sequence. Government said we want to do it earlier, that's why they introduced this bill. So what this bill tried to do, it said that we can use old data. Why to wait for the census, new census data? We can still use old data, and based on that old data, we can basically provide reservation earlier. That was the argument, but it was opposed. So basically, two important things. It proposed the increment in the seats of Lok Sabha from 543 to 850 members. Out of those 850, 815 was supposed to be from states and 35 from the UTs. Okay, now understand, this was being opposed that those states who have controlled their population, they will be given less representation, and that's why there was opposition. It also tried to amend the Article 334A to implement the 1/3 reservation, which is given to the women, which was supposed to be implemented after the new census. So we want to change that original provision that after the new census it will be applicable. So we are saying, okay, let's use the existing data, that is old census data, to implement this reservation. However, the bill was defeated, so of course now it doesn't make any sense. That simply means now the reservation provision will be effective once we have the data from the new census. Then there will be delimitation, and then there will be implementation of reservation. So basically the criticism is that it is very difficult to do it in the upcoming Lok Sabha election. So most probably it will be implemented by 2034. That is the entire argument around it. Next is related to promotion and regulation of online gaming rules. First thing first, the government tried to regulate the online games, and basically two categories were created. One is certain category of the games, online games, were basically prohibited. Why they were prohibited? They were more or less gambling. Other type of online games are still allowed. So for this entire regulation, this act was enacted, and subsequently the government introduced the rules. The name of the rules is Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Rules 2026. They are issued by MEITY, again ministry is important, and they are issued as per this act. What is the name of the act? Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act of 2025. So act is of 2025, rules are issued in 2026. Who have issued rules? That is MEITY. Okay, now basically it categorizes the online games into esports. That simply means the game which we play, the online version of that. Okay, then online social games and online money game. Now, in a very simple sense, examiner can simply say that it has prohibited all type of online games. No, it has not. Basically, it prohibits the form of online money game. Why? Because they promote kind of gambling. And it allow the previous two category, that is e-sport, this is allowed, and online social gaming, that is allowed. Now, for the regulation of this entire thing, OGAI has been set up. What is OGAI? That is Online Gaming Authority of India, and it is under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. The headquarters is going to be in Delhi, and there will be 6 members, and the chairperson is going to be the additional secretary of MEITY. Again, examiner can set a trap that this will be chaired by MEITY minister, but in this case it is a secretary, additional secretary to be specific. Now, it talks about a two-tier grievance redressal mechanism. What is this two-tier grievance redressal? First, there will be internal grievance redressal mechanism. Internal basically means, in a very simple sense, let's say you have an issue with some gaming company. You are a player and you had issue, so you are going to file a complaint in that particular company, and they are going to work on this complaint. If they don't take any action on your complaint, so now you can approach the government body. So two important things, one is internal complaint, that simply means within that company, and second, you can appeal against it, and you will have 30 days to appeal. And once you have appealed, then the government body need to resolve your case within 90 days. So this is going to be the timeline of the event, 30 plus 90 days. Next topic is related to Rajya Sabha, and this is quite important. You need to understand. So the deputy chairperson of Rajya Sabha was recently elected, And this deputy chairperson is basically a nominated member. So very straightforward question can be asked in exam, that nominated members cannot be elected as the deputy chairperson. This is one such example, so you need to keep it in mind. Now understand the news. So nominated member, nominated basically means I'm talking about Rajya Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, members can be nominated, and nominated member Mr. Harivansh Narayan Singh, please remember previously he had served as the deputy chairperson for 2 terms. Okay, so he was later nominated, and subsequently after nomination he was elected as the deputy chairperson. In a very simple sense, let me explain the timeline of the event. So he was already the deputy chairperson of Rajya Sabha. His term ended. After the end of the term, he was again nominated. Previously he was serving, term ended, he was nominated. After being nominated, he was again elected as the deputy chairperson. This is 3rd term for his appointment as deputy chairperson. So this is something you need to keep in mind. 2 traps can be there. A, examiner will make a statement like nominated members cannot be elected as deputy chairperson. Second statement can be that a deputy chairperson cannot have more than 2 terms. Nothing like this exists in the constitution. So of course that's why the person has been basically elected for the 3rd term, and this is 3rd consecutive term. As far as Rajya Sabha deputy chairperson is concerned, please remember as per article 89, the deputy chairperson is elected from the members. Now understand one more trap. The statement says elected from the members. This process is going to be through election. Members can be nominated. Members in Rajya Sabha can be nominated. Members in Rajya Sabha will also come from states. 2 type of basically membership will be there. One is through nomination, and one members will come from states. So you need to understand these traps, so that if examiner set these kind of trap, you can bypass them. Now as far as the Rajya Sabha nomination is concerned, so as per article 80, 12 members can be nominated, and they can be nominated in these category, that is literature, science, arts, and social service. Now please remember one thing, at state level there is one more category, that is cooperative. So from that perspective, there are more category for nomination at state level. Please remember one more thing, nominated member can participate in the debates. They can vote in the vice presidential election, but they cannot vote in the presidential election. In presidential election, basically the nominated members cannot vote. Now, can they join political party? They can join a political party within the 6 months. Can independent member join the political party? This is something which you need to answer in the comment section. Is it possible for a independent member to join a political party? If so, that simply means if they join a party, will anti-defection be applicable in that case? Next is related to removal of judges. So basically, former High Court judge Yashwant Verma, basically he resigned. A case was going on, case or inquiry was going on against him. In that context, please remember one judgment, that is Veera Swamy judgment. What is this Veera Swamy judgment? Basically, as per this judgment, FIR cannot be directly filed against the higher judicial officials. First, they need prior approval from the CJI. So that's why there was a controversy that why no FIR or why no action was taken against this particular judge in this entire case. The reason is, as per Veera Swamy's judgment, it is not possible. Okay, and that's why a lot of politicians also raised question against it, and they demanded that this judgment need to be reviewed. So you just need to remember that this judgment simply says that direct action cannot be taken. Okay, now the removal process has already been discussed in the previous months, so I'm not going to repeat it. Please watch it from there. One more trap which can be set up by the examiner, that the entire process of removal is mentioned in the constitution explicitly. No, for that, for detailed provision, we have Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. Next is related to recusal of judges. Now understand this entire case. So basically, the former Chief Minister of Delhi was basically contesting his own case, and he said that the judge who is involved in this case, I am having a thought that the judge may be biased against me because the judge is having some inclination towards other ideology. That was the entire argument. Now, from exam perspective, you need to understand what is recusal. Recusal, in a very simple sense, means so in a very simple sense, recusal means that someone else is going to hear this case because either there is a conflict of interest, and that's why the fair judgment will not be possible. So the judge is saying that, okay, I'm not going to hear this case, I'm out from this, someone else should hear this case because there is a conflict of interest. That is a basic sense of recusal. So this was a case related to the excise policy issue. Now, in that context, please remember that state government have the power to impose excise duty on liquor. That can be asked in economics as well. Now, please remember one more thing, that we don't have any explicit codification of this entire process. It depends on the discretion of the judge whether they want to recuse or not. However, there are certain case laws. For example, Ranjit Thakur versus Union of India and Chandra Prabha versus Union of India. These are two important precedents, but explicitly it is not codified that in what circumstances they need to recuse themselves. Next is Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. So recently the meeting of this association of Region Zone 7, this was organized in Goa. This is the headquarters of this Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. So the headquarters is in London. It was founded in 1911. As the name suggests, it is for the collaboration between the parliaments of different countries who are the member of this grouping. Okay, and they also publish one journal, that is the Parliamentarian. Okay. Next is related to NCERT. So basically, NCERT has been given the status of deemed university, and that's why it was in news. In a very simple sense, what is the benefit of deemed university? It can provide its own degree now. So apart from designing curriculum, now it can also provide the degrees, and that's why it is important from NCERT perspective. So this is the headline: NCERT get deemed university status. So now it can grant a degree and it can expand the research. And since it is a university now, it will have to follow the regulations set up by UGC. What is UGC? That is University Grants Commission. So NCERT has been given the deemed to be university. So NCERT is under Education Ministry, and the headquarters is in New Delhi. And with this, we have covered the polity section of April 2026 Vision IAS Monthly magazine. Okay, so we have covered the polity section. Now we are going to cover the IR section. And in IR section, first news is related to Nepal. So recently elections were organized in Nepal, and the new Prime Minister of Nepal is Balin Shah. He is from RSP. What is this RSP? That is Rashtriya Swatantra Party. Now, please understand one thing. As far as UPSC is concerned, UPSC usually have a habit of asking questions related to our neighboring countries. So, what is happening in, let's say, in Myanmar, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, you need to know from political perspective, like who is the Prime Minister and what is the political party. These are very basic things. As a aspiring bureaucrat, you need to know this. Okay. Now, as far as India and Nepal are concerned, we have a shared border of 1751 kilometers, and 5 Indian states share the border boundary with Nepal. Apart from that, there are integrated checkposts. What is meaning of integrated checkpost? In a very simple sense, integrated checkpost simply means they are the checkpost for the movement of goods as well as for the movement of people. So in a very simple sense, they are the point of transaction between India and Nepal in this case. And what was the first ICP? So the first ICP, that is integrated checkpost, that was set up at Birganj. So this was Nepal's first ever ICP, and other ICP are Biratnagar, Nepalganj, and Bhairava. So just have a look at these important ICP. So a match the following type of question can be asked from this. Now, India and Nepal have a friendship treaty, that is India-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1950. Understand, there are a lot of rivers which are basically common between India and Nepal, and for that there are a water sharing agreement. One such river is Gandak River. Now, recently Nepal is pushing for its renegotiation. Nepal is saying that we are receiving less water, and therefore they want to review this entire agreement of water sharing for the Gandak River. Apart from that, there are few other projects, for example, railway connectivity project, defense cooperation. For example, Gorkha Regiment is there in the Indian Army. However, because of this Agniveer scheme, now Nepal is saying that our soldiers will not get the equivalent benefit. Why so? Because Agniveer scheme is for a short duration only. So that's why they are not happy with this entire thing. Another issue is related to border. So basically, this is regarding the Treaty of Sugoli, which was signed in 1816. Now, Nepal claims certain areas. However, as per the historic records, these areas are under control of India. So that's why there is a dispute. We have already covered it in our previous months that this is regarding the interpretation of the starting point of the Kali River. Next topic is related to Indian Ocean region. So basically the 9th Indian Ocean Conference that was organized, and that's why it was in news. Now understand, as far as Indian Ocean is concerned, there are two important doctrine. One is Sagar and one is Mahasagar. So these are two important doctrine from exam perspective. So this Indian Ocean Conference was started in 2016 by the India Foundation with 30 countries, and this time it was organized in Mauritius. The theme was collective stewardship for the Indian Ocean governance. So the main focus was on Sagar. What is Sagar? Security and growth for all in the region. So that is the main focus of this entire doctrine. There's one more doctrine, and that is Mahasagar. So Mahasagar basically have a much wider perspective as far as Indian Ocean is concerned. It is talking about mutual and holistic growth. Now, as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, there are two major issues. One is related to the choke points, which we have seen in case of, let's say, Strait of Hormuz or Strait of Malacca. Another issue is related to militarization. So that simply means deployment of military in the island. So one issue is vulnerability of critical choke points. Okay, and the second is militarization. So for example, USA have its military base in Diego Garcia, which is a foreign territory of UK, and UK has given it on lease to USA. Now let's have a look at the geographical location of these places. Please understand one simple thing. Whenever you are reading anything, try to find out its location. That way it will have much better attention. However, for the sake of understanding, as well as to make sure that it is quite convenient for you, I have tried to add these maps in the PDF itself. That's why this time the PDF number of pages in the PDF are quite high this time. Usually it is around 30 to 40, but this time it is higher because I have tried to add a lot of newspaper screenshot, a lot of images to make it more reader friendly. Okay, so let's have a look at the important locations. So one is this Gwadar port. It is part of CPAC. What is CPAC? China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Understand, let me give you a very basic understanding of all these issues. This is Strait of Malacca, and this is important choke point for China. That simply means if this is blocked, China will face huge problem. That's why, to use it strategically, India is developing its infrastructure in Great Nicobar. That is basically Great Nicobar project. Okay. Now, China understands this vulnerability, and that's why they are trying to build alternative routes. One such alternative route is the CPAC. What is the CPAC? It is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. As a part of that CPAC, China is working with Pakistan on this Gwadar port. To counter this, we are working with Iran, and that is basically referred as a Chahabar port in Iran. Okay, so two important ports are there. Apart from that, China is trying to encircle India, and that is basically referred as a string of pearls strategy. One such part is this Hambantota. This is harbor in Sri Lanka, which is basically given to China on lease. So this is given to China on lease. Apart from that, this is Diego Garcia. We have already discussed that technically it is a territory of UK, which has been given to USA on lease, and USA has set up its military base in this. Apart from that, this is Keeling Island. So basically this is the territory of Australia. Again, it is a base for deployment of military. This is Reunion Island. This is French overseas territory, which is being used for military purpose. And another is Mayotte, which is again French island. and this is Madagascar. So again, a very simple straightforward question can be asked regarding the location, these important location. Apart from that, few other important locations are there. This is Suez Canal, this is Mediterranean Sea, and this is Gulf of Aden, and this is Bab al Mandab. Now what is happening? This is Yemen. The problem is that in Yemen there are Houthi rebels which are backed by Iran, especially we refer it as axis of resistance. So what is happening is that this area is not so secure. In terms of transportation, it is not so secure, and that's why what is happening is that the insurance cost has increased, and that's why the transportation cost has also increased. So that is important point. Now India, since we claim to be net security provider, so India tried to provide humanitarian assistance to the neighboring countries. As a part of that, India provided assistance to Sri Lanka under Operation Sagar Bandhu, and Sri Lanka was actually affected by the cyclone Ditwa. So two important facts can be asked. A, what was the name of the cyclone? That was Ditwa. And what was the name of operation which was conducted by India to provide humanitarian assistance? So that was Sagar Bandhu. Now the another challenge in Indian Ocean is related to the gray zone warfare. What is gray zone? It is neither black nor it is white. In a very simple sense, it is neither peaceful nor there is a direct confrontation. So it is a kind of Cold War type of situation where no clear-cut peace is there, no clear-cut direct confrontation is there. A, what is ASEAN? So ASEAN is a association of South Asian countries. Okay. That is Association of Southeast Asian Countries. Now, understand, recently Timor became the 11th member of ASEAN. The membership of Timor was opposed by Indonesia, so they had a kind of hostility between them, and Timor became independent in 2002 after the conflict with Indonesian occupation. Okay, now from exam perspective, this one agreement is quite important. That is a Digital Economy Framework Agreement. So what is the objective? As the name suggests, it is related to digital economy. Two important things. Examiner can set a trap that it is related to EU or some other regional grouping. Secondly, please remember it is a binding agreement. So examiner can set another trap that it is non-binding. Usually the international agreements are non-binding, but always remember there are certain exceptions. This is one such exception. So in this case, you need to remember that it is world's first region-wide binding treaty. Now, apart from that, there is one more initiative which is related to ASEAN. So ASEAN plus 3 more countries, that is China, South Korea, and Japan. This is basically referred as ASEAN plus 3. So they had this Chiang Mai initiative. So this initiative is for currency swap agreement. What is this currency swap agreement? Swap basically means exchange. So currency exchange program. So whenever any particular country need foreign reserve, that is US dollar, so they can get it exchanged using this initiative. Even India have such a bilateral agreement with different countries. Now understand, ASEAN plus 5. So plus 3 basically refers to China, South Korea, and Japan. If we will add 2 more countries, that is New Zealand and Australia, then it is going to be ASEAN plus 5, and these 15 countries have RCEP. What is RCEP? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is important to note that India was initially a part of the negotiations for RCEP. However, we decided not to join it. Independently, we have signed agreement with New Zealand recently, but as far as RCEP is concerned, India is not a part of it. Next is Reciprocal Exchange of Logistic Support Pact. The name itself is self-explanatory. Reciprocal basically means they are going to provide us support and we are going to provide support to them. So it is between India and Russia. So we are going to provide support to the military of each other. This way we will have better access towards Arctic Circle. On the other hand, we are going to provide support to Russia. Now it is important to note that recently one aircraft or a fighter jet of UK was in news, and it was actually F-35B. So why I am connecting these two events? See, with UK we do not have this level of agreement. So what was happening was that the fighter jet of UK was facing some problem. So initially UK was hesitant to land it in India. Why? Because India does not have its own 5th gen fighter jet. So they were kind of worried, what if we steal their technology? Usually this kind of things happen, and that's why it is important. So that's why UK showed its hesitancy in the initial stage. It is important to note that we don't have 5th gen. As of now, we have Rafale, which is 4.5 gen. We are working on our 5th gen fighter jet, and for that we are going to get engine from GE. What is GE? General Electric, which is a company of USA. That is AMCA. This is going to be our 5th gen fighter jet. In the next stage, we are going to co-produce this engine. So two important things are there. India is working on its AMCA, that is our 5th gen fighter jet. For that, we are getting engine from GE, and in the next stage we are going to co-produce it with the group of France, that is Safran Group. What about the 5th gen fighter jet of other countries? For example, J-20 is from China, F-35 is from USA, again F-22 is also from USA, SU, that is Su-57 is from Russia. Next is related to United Nations Development Partnership Fund. So basically, India played a key role in this entire fund. This was set up in 2017. Why it was in news recently? Because of the review. Now, what is the basic intention behind this initiative? The basic objective is to promote the South-South cooperation. What is the South-South? So basically, there is a Brent line. This is a line. The countries above this line are global north, and countries below are global south. Usually these are developed countries, usually these are developing countries. So we want to promote the cooperation among these countries, and for that purpose this initiative was started, in which India is playing a key role. So you need to remember this thing. Next is related to Operation Urja Suraksha. So basically, because of Strait of Hormuz crisis, what was happening, that India was facing energy security related issues. Keeping that in mind, Government of India launched this initiative. Now, apart from that, because of the conflict in Iran, we evacuated our people under the operation, that is Operation Sindhu. So just remember this thing. This was evacuation program. Apart from that, we provided assistance to Sri Lanka under Operation Sagar Bandhu. Apart from that, the Iranian warship, that is IRIS Dena, so that was in news. Why it was in news? Because it was participating in some exercise conducted by India, and when it was going back, it was attacked by USA. So this entire controversy was in news. So you need to remember 2-3 things. A, what was the name of that exercise? So the name of exercise was Milan. So this was conducted in Visakhapatnam. This was a multilateral naval exercise. That's one thing. What was the name of that Iranian warship? So it was Iris Dena. Now, to ensure our energy security, we are working on SPR. What is SPR? Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So basically, we are working on the storage of petroleum, so that whenever there is emergency, we have sufficient amount of reserve petroleum. For that purpose, UAE is collaborating with India. So these are important SPR sites. What is SPR? Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The important locations are Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, Mangalore in Karnataka, and Padur in Karnataka. So this is the geographical location of Padur, and this is the geographical location of Mangalore. If we talk about Visakhapatnam, so this is Visakhapatnam, and then there is going to be Chandikol. So this is for first phase, that is Visakhapatnam, Mangalore and Padur. They are being developed as a part of first phase. Second phase will have 2 more facility, one at Chandikol in Odisha and second in Padur in Karnataka. Next topic is related to the impact of war on the agriculture. Understand, India is heavily dependent on agriculture. We are agrarian economy, because roughly 50% population is still dependent on agriculture. For agriculture, fertilizer is quite important. For fertilizer, natural gas is quite important, and India is heavily dependent on import. So whenever there is going to be any conflict, it is going to impact our supply chain. So that's why even though we are not a direct party in this conflict, we are facing the adverse impact of it, be it in terms of petrol prices or be it in terms of fertilizer prices. Next is related to certain conflict areas in news. We have already covered Red Sea and Bab al Mandab. We have covered Houthi rebels and axis of resistance. Apart from that, there was one Qasem Island of Iran. It was in news. We are going to have a look at its geographical location. Then Ust-Luga port in Russia. It was in news because it was attacked. And Skarberg Shoal, which was in news because of the China's aggression. Okay, now let's have a look at these locations one by one. So first is this Ust-Luga. This is in Russia. Then this is South China Sea. If you can see these red dots, basically this is the area claimed by China, and this is referred as a 9-dash line. Now understand its significance. See, there's a concept of EEZ, that is exclusive economic zone. So if your territory is still here, so till 200 nautical miles, you will have your EEZ. But what if somehow you are able to show that your territory is still here? So what you can do, you can extend your EEZ. China is trying to do the same thing by constructing artificial island and by claiming these territories. So that is referred as the 9-dash line. In this, there are various disputed islands. One such island is this Skarberg Shoal. This is one. Then there is Paracel Island. This is second. Then there is Spratly Island. So you need to remember its geographical location. This is Philippines and this is Taiwan. This is Hong Kong and this is Qasem Island. This is Strait of Hormuz and this is Fujairah port. We have already discussed the issue of Strait of Malacca and the Malacca dilemma of Sri Lanka. In this Strait of Malacca, the narrowest point is basically referred as the Phillips Channel. So this is the geographical location of Phillips Channel. This is Strait of Malacca and this is Phillips Channel. This is Singapore Strait. Now these are 4 important choke points. One such choke point is this Strait of Hormuz. We have already covered this. Second is Strait of Malacca. Again we have covered. Third is this Bab el-Mandab and Suez Canal area. Fourth is this Panama Canal area. So these are important choke points. Apart from that, this is Strait of Gibraltar. Basically, it connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Apart from that, Canary Island was also in news. So this is the geographical location of Canary Island. This is African continent and this is Canary Island and it is the territory of Spain. So why it was in news recently? Because INS Sudarsini made its maiden visit to this Canary Island under this Lokayan 26 deployment. What is this Lokayan 26? Basically, it is a trans-oceanic expedition. Trans-oceanic basically means we are going to visit various oceans as a part of this expedition. And the highest peak of this island is, this is Mount Tade, which is the Spain's highest peak. Next is related to the Punat Sangchu project. So this was in news because of the collaboration between India and Bhutan. 2-3 important thing. It is a hydroelectric project. In a very simple sense, we are making electricity from water. Now understand, it is a run-of-river project. That simply means it will not disrupt the flow and it does not require a huge dam, or we don't require huge amount of reservoir. Okay, we don't have to set up these things for this project. Now this is located on the Punat Sangchu river. The name itself is self-explanatory. This river is formed by 2 rivers, that is Phochu and Mochu rivers. And this is a tributary of Brahmaputra river. It is also known as Gangadhar river and it merges with Brahmaputra river. Okay, this Sankosh river, this is also known as Sankosh river. So Sankosh river basically form the boundary between Assam and West Bengal. So let's have a look at the geographical location of this particular river. So this is Sankosh river. This is Brahmaputra river. Now the Sankosh river is also known as Punat Sangchu river and it is basically supplying water to Brahmaputra river. In Bhutanese language, Chu basically means river. So these were the important current affairs from the IAS section. In the next part, we are going to cover the economy section. Okay, now we are going to cover economy section. In economy section, basically the first topic is India's resilient production system in agriculture. So we had decent production this year, and the total food grain production of India was 357.73 million metric ton MMT. Now please remember one thing, that we don't have sufficient storage facility. So we have storage facility for roughly 47% of our food grain, and that's why government is working on creating storage infrastructure at PAX level. What is this PAX? It is Primary Agriculture Credit Society. So at local level we are developing the storage infrastructure. So that is something which you need to keep in mind. Another major issue is that even though we are agrarian economy, because roughly 50% population is dependent on agriculture, there is one major problem. Problem is that our cropping pattern is heavily dominated by rice and wheat, and that's why what is happening, we do not cultivate much pulses, and therefore what is happening is that we are import dependent. To address this problem, the government had announced Atmanirbharta in pulses mission. So we are dependent on import for pulses and edible oil. For edible oil, the mission was already announced previously, and that was National Mission on Edible Oil. So two important missions are there. One is this Atmanirbharta in pulses, in which we want to reduce our import dependency. For that to happen, government is incentivizing farmers to cultivate more and more pulses, and to ensure the price security for farmer, government is saying that okay, whatever you are going to produce, we are going to procure. So focus, in this case, focus is on TUM. What is TUM? So TUM basically means Tur, Urad and Masoor. So this is the focus of this mission. Apart from that, there are various trade barriers. Trade barrier basically means barriers in the trade of agricultural items. For example, there is a agreement on agriculture. This is an agreement of WTO. Now, as far as India's agricultural trade is concerned, so our agricultural export is roughly $50 billion, and our agricultural import is roughly $35 billion. So you can understand that the difference is not much. This itself create problem, because we are agrarian economy. Despite that fact, we are importing huge amount of agricultural items. Okay, the agriculture export policy was announced in 2018, and the objective was to double the agricultural export. At that time, our export were roughly $30 billion, and the objective was to make it to $60 billion. However, even now, target of $60 billion was for 2022. Even now, that is in 2026, our export is roughly $50 billion. Okay, we are developing storage infrastructure. There are trade barrier in terms of SPS. In a very simplified sense, SPS basically means sanitary and phytosanitary. Phyto basically means plant. So on hygiene ground, countries of various countries of Europe have imposed various restrictions on products from India. For example, there was a restriction on the Alfonso mango. That means they said that India cannot export its Alfonso mango to European countries. Why? Because of hygiene conditions, that they are not safe for consumption. So this is something which you need to keep in mind. Next is related to IBC, that is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now first let's try to understand what is insolvency. In a very simple sense, insolvency basically means I don't have money to pay, so my liabilities are higher than my asset. That is insolvency. What is bankruptcy? Once I legally declare it that I don't have money to pay, that is bankruptcy. Now what will happen? Once it is legally declared, then those who have given money to me, they will say okay, sell your assets. Let's say I'm having this iPad, so they will say okay, sell your asset and pay our money back. That is referred as liquidation. Liquidation, in a very simple sense, you are selling your asset to pay money back to those people who have given money to you. Okay, so that is the liquidation part. Now for this entire process, there is IBC. What is IBC? Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So in a very simple sense, previously there were different rules and regulations which complicated this entire process. Now after 2016 we have IBC. Okay, so why this IBC was in news recently? Because recently Parliament passed a certain amendment into this, and this was amendment in 2026. Okay, first amendment is clean state rule. In a very simple sense, understand it this way. For example, there are various allegations against particular company, okay, and subsequently liquidation or IBC proceedings were approved. Once these proceedings are approved, the previous allegations, they will be considered as clear. It's just like that. For example, there were various allegations against a person, the person was given a way out, now those allegations will not be considered. Okay, so in this case, understand one more thing, question can be asked from this point. The rules were notified by the Corporate Affairs Ministry. So usually UPSC have a habit of swapping ministry. For example, in 2026 prelims, they basically swapped Ministry of Earth Sciences with some other ministry. Okay, so you need to understand how particular legislation will be implemented, through which ministry it will be implemented. Okay, now just have a look at this headline. Go First files for bankruptcy, suspend flight in for 3 days. The moment they file for bankruptcy, in a very simple sense, they are legally declaring that we don't have money. And after that, what will happen? After that, there will be liquidation in the pipeline. Now, what is so special about 2026 amendment? So understand, in this case, there is one more process. Previously, there was traditional approach, corporate insolvency resolution process. Corporate basically means businesses. Okay. So let's say there is a group, a business group ABC. It has borrowed money from the people. People in the sense different lenders are there. L1, L2, L3. I'm just oversimplifying it. Okay. Now, let's say this ABC does not have money. So it is going to say that, okay, we don't have money. Now let's start this entire insolvency process. That was CIRP. In a very simple sense, corporate insolvency resolution process. So once there will be default, then this process will be started. And the adjudication will be done through NCLT or through court. What is NCLT? National Company Law Tribunal. So if the proceedings are against any company, then NCLT will decide. If the proceedings are against any individual, then DRT will decide. What is DRT? Debt Recovery Tribunal. Okay, this was the traditional process. Now this 2026 amendment has introduced one more alternative. Understand the full form and rest everything will be clear. CIIRP. CIIRP basically refers to creditor initiated. Now who is the creditor in this case? So L1, L2, L3, they have lent money. So they are creditor. Creditor initiated insolvency resolution process. That simply means these people can start. As per CIRP, who will start? ABC will start. But as per CIIRP, these people, these are creditors, they will start this entire process. Okay, and this can be started even before default. Now, what is the objective here? Objective is to ensure the out of court settlement, so that two things can happen. A, this entire process can be completed within time. Secondly, there will be less burden on the judicial system. So that's why the objective is out of court settlement or out of court mechanism. So that is the major difference. So we have covered three things. What is IBC? What is IBC code? What is the 2026 amendment? In a very simple sense, IBC code try to simplify this entire process. This 2026 amendment basically try to specify that even creditors can start this entire process. Why they can start? So that this can be done as a outside court settlement or out of court mechanism. Now, what was clean state principle? We have already covered. It simply says that once a resolution plan is approved, once the plan is approved, then all the previous claim against the corporate debtor are entirely extinguished. In a very simple sense, let's start new, let's start fresh. Clean state basically means all the previous mistakes are now forgiven, and let's start new. Why? Because it has been approved. The resolution process has been approved. Now understand, one more term is there in this liquidation waterfall. Let's say, I'm oversimplifying, let's say the same ABC company had borrowed money from L1, L2, L3. Now once the assets will be sold, who will receive money first? Whether it will be L1, whether it will be L2, whether it will be L3. So this entire sequence, this is referred as the liquidation waterfall. That means who will receive money first once there is a liquidation process. In this case, the government specified that the unpaid government taxes, they rank below the secured financial creditors. Let me simplify again. So three people had given money, and this particular company ABC had not paid tax as well. So once there will be liquidation, it's not that government will say, okay, give us our tax first. No, that's not going to happen. First, the people who had given money to this company, they will be paid back, and then there will be priority of the government taxation. That is the meaning of this entire sequence. Now you should be clear in your mind that how examiner can trap. Examiner will basically say that the government taxes are on top priority. if government taxes will be paid in the first instance, once there is a liquidation, then what will happen? The remaining creditors or remaining people who have given money, they may not receive money. Next is related to gig economy. Nothing new is there about gig economy. Just remember 2-3 things. A, it is a tradition. It basically does not have traditional employee-employer relationship. That's first thing you need to keep in mind. That simply means the company does not consider these people as permanent employees, okay, and therefore they do not pay money for their welfare. Now, why it was in news? Because recently Telangana became the 5th state to provide the social security provision for these gig workers. Now, understand 2-3 important things. Gig workers have provided more and more opportunity. This has provided more opportunity for the women, so therefore they contributed in the women empowerment. That's one thing. Apart from that, there are certain issues which we have covered earlier as well. For example, this entire thing work on the basis of algorithm. Now, how these algorithm works, no one knows, and that's why they are basically referred as black box. Sometimes what happen when these gig worker raise their voice against the company blacklist them. So that is another problem. Apart from that, the government has basically notified the 4 labor codes. In that, one labor code talks about the social security. However, there is a problem. Problem is that as per this code, there is a restrictive 90 days rule before benefits trigger. What do I mean by that? In a very simple sense, a worker need to work for at least 90 days in a financial year to get the benefits under this code. So that's why it is considered as restrictive. That simply means if someone has worked, let's say, for 80 days, so they will not receive benefit. That is the criticism of this entire thing. Next is Payment Vision 2028. So in this case, understand, recently RBI announced this payment vision of 2028. In this case, please remember one thing: UPI, that is Unified Payment Interface, it completed its 10-year. As far as UPI is concerned, Nepal was the first country to fully adopt UPI payment. In Europe, France was the first one to do so. In Caribbean, TNT, that is Trinidad and Tobago, they are the first one to adopt it. And in Africa, Namibia is the first one to adopt this payment system. UPI is by NPCI. What is NPCI? National Payment Corporation of India. NPCI is an initiative of RBI along with IBA. What is IBA? Indian Banks Association. Next is digital payment fraud. So with digitization, there is a rising risk of payment fraud as well. So that's why it was in news. Now, in this case, various initiatives were suggested by RBI. For example, for senior citizens, there should be additional authentication. In a very simple sense, there will be first OTP on the mobile number of that senior citizen, and then there will be second OTP on the mobile phone or on the mobile number of relative of that particular senior citizen. So this way, we are basically adding another layer of security. Apart from that, RBI has also suggested that there should be 1 hour time lag. Time lag basically means time gap for the transactions above 10,000. That means, let's say first transaction is of 15,000, then for the next 1 hour you cannot do another transaction. This is a recommendation by RBI. Apart from that, RBI is also focusing on curbing the mule account. Now, what is this mule account? This can be asked in exam. Mule account basically means, let's say there is some senior citizen. Okay, this person is not aware how their bank account is being used by these scamsters. So scamsters, what they will do, they will scam someone and then they will transfer that money in some bank account. Okay, now the actual owner of that bank account may not be aware of these transactions. Usually they target the senior citizens who are not much aware about all these things. So if you have seen that Jamtara movie, so what these scamsters are doing, basically they are convincing the senior citizens that we are going to use your bank account for some genuine purpose, and then they will transfer the illegal money into those accounts, and then they will use those accounts. These accounts are basically referred as mule account. And to address this problem, RBI has one initiative as well, Mule Hunter. So remember this thing. Apart from that, there is a provision of kill switch. What is kill switch? In a very simple sense, once it is triggered, all the transactions will be stopped immediately. So that is referred as kill switch. Next is related to PLI. So PLI is a production linked incentive. That simply means incentives are given on the basis of production. Now understand why this was announced. So during COVID, we realized that we are heavily dependent on China, and because of COVID, the supply chain was disrupted. So that's why government said, let's do one thing, let's focus on those sectors on which we are heavily dependent on China. So 14 sectors were targeted, and this was started in 2020. Which sectors are targeted? Those sectors on which we are heavily dependent on China. One such sector is PLI scheme for food processing industry. That simply means examiner can simply ask you that which of the following sector is covered under PLI. So you should know on which sectors we are heavily dependent on China. And examiner can simply ask you, is food processing a part of this coverage? So remember, it is. Now government is giving subsidy, or government is giving support to the producers so that they can compete in the global market. Understand what is the objective. Objective is to reduce our import dependency, to promote our domestic manufacturing unit. That simply means they will help in promotion of MSME as well, and in certain cases it has been quite successful. For example, in telecom sector it has been quite successful. In the export of mobile phones, India has done quite well because of the support of the PLI scheme. However, there is a criticism. Criticism is that this scheme will be successful as long as government is giving incentive. So now there are two major problems. A, what will happen once the government stop these incentive? That's one challenge. Second challenge is it is creating unfair advantage for those who are receiving this benefit. Now those who are receiving this benefit, their cost of production will be relatively low in comparison to those who are not receiving this benefit. Their cost of production will be high. So within India, we are creating two unfair circumstances. So that is the criticism. Next is related to PLFS. What is PLFS? Periodic Labor Force Survey. Everything is self-explanatory. We are doing the survey of labor force, and it is periodic. Periodic basically means on regular period or on regular intervals. First thing first, what is labor force? So understand, our population can be categorized in following categories. Number one, working population. Working population simply means these people are earning money. So they are involved in some economic activity. Please remember the keyword economic activity. That simply means they receive money for that work. So they are working. Second, those who are actively searching for work. As of now, they have not received the work. They are still searching. The moment they will finalize, or the moment they will get the work, they will be shifted into this category. Okay. Third is neither working nor seeking. That is category number C. So A, those who are working. B, those who are searching. C, those who are neither they are working nor they are searching. Okay, three categories are there. Understand, the category A and B, they are part of our labor force. That is our labor force. Why not category C? Because they are not searching, neither they are working nor they are searching. Okay. Now A and B, that is our labor force. That simply means these are the people who are either working or either or they are searching for the work. Okay. Now, if we have to determine our employment rate, so these are the working, these are our labor force. So A divided by A plus B, that is our employment rate. On the other hand, let's say we have to determine our unemployment rate. So how we can determine unemployment rate? B divided by A plus B. What is A plus B? A plus B is our labor force. Okay. So these are some basic terminology which you should know before reading or before understanding this PLFS. Now, understand there are certain changes in PLFS. Previously, the data was collected for a reference period of agricultural year. Agricultural year basically means from 1st July till 30th of June. Now, the government has changed this approach. So now the data is collected for the calendar year. Calendar year basically means from January to from 1st January to 31st of December. Okay, that is calendar year. So why this PLFS is quite important? Because it is the first report based on the calendar year instead of agricultural year. Previously data was collected as per agricultural year. Now it was collected on the basis of calendar year. Okay, now let's have a look at the important data points. First is labor force participation rate. So the total labor force, that is male plus female, is roughly 59.3. For male it was 79, for female it was 40. Easy way to remember, for female it is 40%, combined is 60%, Male, it is roughly 80%. That is just estimated range you should keep in mind. Okay. Second is worker population ratio. So how many people are working out of our population? So for male, it is 76%. For female, it is 38.8, and the total is 57.4. These data points can be directly asked in UPSC as well as in the state PCS exams. Okay. What is unemployment rate? So unemployment rate was 3.1. In rural, it was 2.4. In urban, it was 4.8. Now you might wonder why the rural unemployment rate is relatively lower in comparison to urban one. The reason is simple. In rural areas, agriculture is available, so that's why it reduces the scope of unemployment, because those who need work, they can directly engage into agriculture, and that's why the agricultural dependency is quite high. But there is a problem, and the problem is basically disguised unemployment. In a very simple sense, these people, let's say 4 people are required but 9 people are engaged, so remaining 5, technically they are unemployed. Why so? Because even if we will remove them, it will not have impact on the productivity. That's why it is often said that their marginal productivity is 0. Now coming to youth unemployment, so it declined from 10.3% to 9.9%. Okay, just remember the trends. Now understand, reduction in unemployment is quite important. There is Okun's law. What does it say? It says that every 1% increase in unemployment rate, GDP of that country will drop by roughly 2%. Why it is happening? See, if there is high unemployment, that simply means people will not have money, so the demand will be relatively lower. Since the demand is lower, the companies will start producing less, so overall production will be lower, and therefore our overall GDP growth will be lower. So that's how you can directly connect unemployment rate to the GDP growth. Now why our labor force is not participating? So what are the factors? So for example, 69.8% males specified that they are studying, that's why they are not participating in economic activity. 44% females specified that it is because of the home making or because of the child care. Apart from that, there is unpaid work gap. Unpaid work basically means you are working but you are not being paid for that. For example, in home, female does more unpaid work in comparison to male. Apart from that, there is a difference in the level of employment. For example, self-employed people declined to 56.2%. Regular or salaried people increased to 23.6%. Okay, you need to remember this thing. Sector wise, if we talk about, then agriculture sector contribute roughly 43%, manufacturing contribute roughly 12%, and services contribution has increased. Now there is one more trend, that is need rate. What is this need? Not in employment, education or training. That simply means these people, neither they are working, nor they are studying, nor they are getting any kind of training. So that is referred as need. For 15 to 59 years of age, this is 34.9. That simply means out of 100 people in this age group, 25 people are those people who are neither working, nor they are studying, nor they are getting any kind of training, and that is problematic. Why so? Because they are in their prime age of working. Neither they are working, nor they are studying, nor they are getting any kind of training. So this is quite problematic. Now in this case, there is one more term, usual status. Usual status basically means what is the long-term employment status of that particular person. Long-term basically means we are referring to 1 year. Then there is a provision of weekly status, current weekly status. So it talks about the employment status of 7 days. And then there is one more provision, current daily status, is related to workers protest. So because of the poor working condition as well as stagnant wages, a lot of places witnessed the workers protest. For example, Baroni in Bihar, Surat in Gujarat, Manesar in Haryana, and Noida in UP. Why this is happening? One of the biggest reason is contractualization. Contractualization basically means people are hired for a specific duration, however they do not receive social security benefits. Now the government has basically converted 29 laws into 4 labor code. However, implementation is still a problem. Now 2-3 important things are there. One is Anup Satpathy committee. That committee simply recommended that we need to fix the minimum wages on the basis of balanced diet approach. What do I mean by that? In a very simple sense, the minimum wages should be sufficient enough to make sure that the person will get the balanced diet. So it should be fixed accordingly. But what is happening? even though minimum wages are there on paper, in reality the workers do not receive these wages. Apart from that, what else can be done? So we can adopt the German model of co-determination. What is this? In a very simple sense, employee and employer, they are coming together to fix the rules and regulations. So workers participation in management, you can connect it to our DPSP as well. Okay, then we can also adopt the model of Denmark, that is flexicurity. What is this flexicurity? It will provide flexibility to the employers that they can hire and fire people, that is flexibility part, but it will provide security to the workers. So it is a combination of these two things, that is flexicurity. So you can mention it whenever you are mentioning related to, let's say, labor code. Please understand one more thing, if we will make it too much labor friendly, even then there is a problem. Why there is a problem? Because companies do not want excessive rules and regulations that act as a regulatory cholesterol, which economic survey has also highlighted. What is regulatory cholesterol? Excessive regulation. And in the budget has also specified this thing, that if there will be excessive regulation, then the companies will not prefer to invest into that particular state or that particular country. Next is related to self-sufficiency in edible oil. So India imports roughly 56% of its edible oil, and within that palm oil constitute roughly 60%, soybean oil roughly 20%, and sunflower oil roughly 20%. Now because we are not producing enough, so that's why we have to import. Now to reduce our import dependency, government is saying let's incentivize farmers to produce more. For that purpose, National Mission on Edible Oil is there. So why farmers are not producing? A, there is no price security. B, we don't have high quality seed. This is basically referred as seed replacement rate. Seed replacement rate basically means how much certified seeds are used and how much seeds are used from the last crop. If we will use certified seeds, the productivity will be higher. Then why farmers are not using it? Because we don't have much land. The per capita land availability is quite low, and that's why what is happening, farmers do not have that much money to buy the certified seeds from the market. How government is trying to fix that? So government is trying to distribute seed through Sathi portal. That's one thing. Second thing, government is saying that okay, whatever you are going to produce, we will try to procure that. How that procurement will be done? Procurement basically means purchase. So how that will be done? That will be done through PM Asha scheme. What is PM Asha? Pradhan Mantri Annadata Aay Sanrakshan Abhiyan. In this case, who is going to procure? So agencies like NAFED will help in the procurement. Apart from that, government is also saying that we will focus on the building the brand, the Bharat oil brand, so that it receive much recognition when we export. Apart from that, government is also working on the new seed bill. Next is related to road safety in India. So recently Supreme Court highlighted the need of ensuring road safety. Please understand that national highway constitute roughly 2% of our road length, but they contribute roughly 30% of the death in road accidents. Why it is happening? Because national highway usually have good quality of infrastructure, so high speed cars are there, and that's why there's a high possibility of accident as well. Now in this case, focus on this one term, that is right of way. Now understand what is happening. Let's say there is a highway, this is highway, and near to this highway there is a dhaba, a local eateries is there. So vehicles will stop here, and once they have completed their breakfast or whatever, they will try to go back to the main road, and this leads to accident. That's why the court have basically banned new dhaba or eateries within the right of way. Why? So that we can reduce the possibility of accident, because these dhaba basically they divert the traffic, and then those vehicles, when they try to re-enter into the main lane, then it leads to accident. Apart from that, advanced traffic management, ambulance facility, and highway safety task force need to be constituted. In this case, remember one more thing. Recently Telangana government launched a project Sanjeevani, which is India's first fully integrated trauma care and highway rescue protocol. In a very simple sense, if there will be accident, there will be dedicated team to rescue this. Next is annual survey of incorporated service sector enterprise. Understand two terms first. One is incorporated. Let me write it properly. Incorporated basically means registered. So registered unit can be manufacturing unit, registered unit can be services unit. Okay, that's first thing. There can be unincorporated. What is unincorporated? It simply means not registered. Now let's have a look at this particular news. Launch of first ever annual survey of incorporated service sector enterprises. So this survey has been launched for the first time. And who has launched it? NSO. What is NSO? NSO is National Statistical Office. It is under MOSPI. What is MOSPI? Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay, what is the reference year for this survey? That is 2024-25. That is the reference year. Okay, now there are three type of survey. We have already discussed it. One survey is this one survey is this one. They were conducted earlier as well. This one is conducted for the first time. That's why it was in news. So ASI, that is Annual Survey of Industry. This is for organized or registered manufacturing sector. That is ASI. Then there is a survey for unincorporated sector enterprises, not registered one. Then there is a survey of incorporated, that is registered service sector enterprise, which was conducted recently. Next is New Income Tax Act came into effect. So basically it tried to simplify the rules and regulation. So sections has been reduced to make it more simple. Apart from that, for corporates, MAT will be there, that is minimum alternative tax, and for non-corporates it will be AMT. What is AMT? Alternate minimum tax. Now in this case there was one controversial provision. Let's say there is a person and the income tax department feel that this person is having some undisclosed income. So there was a raid of income tax department. Now once there will be raid, the IT officials basically they can search the devices, electronic devices of that particular person. Now this is considered as controversial. Why so? Because it is against the provision of right to privacy. Because as far as right to privacy is concerned, your electronic devices are part of your privacy itself. That's why it was in news. Next is general anti-avoidance rule. In a very simple sense, these are the rules to prevent the tax evasion. Okay, so recently India amended income tax rules to exclude the investment made before 1st April 2017 from GAR. In a very simple sense, let's say there is a business who is trying to avoid taxation. So this will be loss of revenue for the government. So government can take action as per GAR, G-A-A-R. Now what government has specified in this recent notification, government is saying that those investment which are made before 1st April 2017, that is the first day of the financial year of 2017, they will not be subject to GAR. That is the crux of this entire matter. Now in this case there is one more term, grandfather clause. What is grandfather clause? In a very simple sense, the old rules will be applicable in certain cases and the new rules will be applicable in all the other cases. Okay, let me simplify it. Let's say the fees for any course is, let's say, 800 rupee, and now the fees has been increased to, let's say, 1000 rupee. So in certain cases, those students who inquired before, let's say, 1st May, in those cases the fees will be, let's say, 800 rupee. Those who inquired after this 1st May, they will have to pay this. This is basically referred as grandfather clause in a very simplified sense. Next is related to payment bank. So recently RBI cancelled the banking license of Paytm Payment Bank. Payment bank are differentiated bank. Differentiated banks basically means they are created for a specific need. They are also known as niche bank, and they were set up on the recommendation of Nachiket Moore committee. Now they need a minimum capital of 100 crore and they cannot issue loan. Please remember, they are not allowed to issue loan, so therefore they cannot issue credit card as well. However, they can lend money to their own members or own employees, but this need to be done from their own money, not from the deposit based money. Okay, how much they can accept? As far as consumer deposit is concerned, they can accept a deposit up to 2 lakh rupees, but they cannot lend this money. Next is non-deliverable derivative. Understand, everything is mentioned in the term itself. Non-deliverable, in a very simple sense, there won't be any actual delivery. Now let's try to understand what does it mean. So RBI barred banks from NDD contract. What is NDD? Non-deliverable derivative in Indian rupee. In a very simple sense, it is offshore kind of transaction. One is HDFC and one is another party, ABC. They are having any kind of transaction. Okay, now let's say they are having a bet or a future prediction that what will be the exchange rate in future. Let's say they are saying that $1 will be equal to 120 rupee. I'm just taking random example. Okay, this is the bet for future time kind of prediction. Okay, and based on this entire prediction they will have a transaction. Now what is happening, since they are offshore basically means they are outside India with some foreign party, so they are outside the regulatory control of RBI. Now what will happen in this case? If there will be currency depreciation, the risk of the bank will increase. That's why RBI is saying do not do this, because it will increase the risk of bank. So that's why RBI barred the bank from these kind of transactions. Next is related to AT1 bond. What is AT? That is additional tier 1. In a very simple sense, they are referred as perpetual bond. Perpetual bond basically means they do not have fixed maturity duration. Maturity basically means term or tenure. Okay, now they are referred as perpetual. Now what examiner can do, examiner can simply say that they have fixed maturity period. That's why they are referred as AT bonds. No, they don't have fixed maturity period. Another problem is that they are highly risky. So what examiner can do, that AT bonds are quite secure. No, they are not. They are highly risky. So if the bank will not have money, so basically bank may say that we won't be able to pay it. In a very simple sense, understand, this is HDFC. It is going to issue AT and one bond, that is additional tier 1 bond. You purchased this bond. So basically let's say you gave 10 lakh rupee to SDFC. Okay, SDFC will take this 10 lakh rupee. SDFC will continue to pay interest to you. There is no fixed duration for this, that after how much years you will receive your principal amount, you will continue to receive interest. But the moment SDFC will face any kind of financial problem, they may say that okay, we won't be able to pay you this money. That's why it is considered as risky. Next is related to net open position. In a very simple sense, how much the bank have to pay in foreign currency and how much payment bank will receive in foreign currency. That is the net open position. So RBI has simply imposed a limitation on the banks, per day limitation, and that is $100 million at the end of each business day. That should be the maximum limit. That means how much foreign currency you need and how much foreign currency you will get. The difference cannot be more than this. So in a very simple sense, it shows the bank's foreign currency asset and liabilities. Asset and liability simply means how much you are going to receive, how much you have to pay. Next is credit default swap. Again, it's a very simple concept. Let me simplify. Let's say there is a FPI. What is FPI? It is a foreign portfolio investor. This is an investor who is in foreign country. Okay. Now they want to invest in the bonds issued by some company. Let's say they want to invest in the bonds issued by Ambani Group. Okay, corporate bonds. These are referred as corporate bond. Why corporate? Because they are issued by corporate. Okay. Now they have invested. They are worried, what if this particular company default? What if they lose money? So what they will do, they will go to a bank and the bank is going to issue CDS. What is CDS? Bank will say, in a very simple sense, bank will say that if this company fail, we will pay you. Why bank will say this? Because bank is going to charge some amount of premium. So it is just like insurance company. In insurance, we buy insurance. Let's say we buy vehicle insurance. So we pay money to the insurance company, and the insurance company say that if any unfortunate event will happen, we will pay you. We will compensate you. Similarly, in this case also, the FPI will go to the bank. FPI will pay some premium to the bank. Bank in return will provide kind of insurance that if this particular corporate house or if this particular company default, we will pay you your money. That is there. So what is the benefit for FPI? FPI's risk is minimized. What is the benefit for SDFC? SDFC is going to earn money if the corporate house will not default. Okay. Now what is happening? RBI has recently imposed restrictions in this case. Why so? Because this is increasing the risk of bank, and RBI is the regulator of banking sector. So RBI has notified limit for investment in debt and the sale of CDS by foreign portfolio investors. Now I think it should be clear in your mind. Okay, what is CDS? In a very simple sense, it is just like insurance policy. Insurance policy for whom? For the investor who invest into corporate bond. What is corporate bond? The bond issued by the private company. So now read this line. This should clarify everything. FPI purchased 500 crore rupee in corporate bond. So they have purchased the corporate bond. In a very simple sense, they have given money to that corporate house. Then buy a CDS from bank. So let's say they purchase CDS from SDFC to secure a full refund if the company default. Okay, that is the case. Next is India accounting standards. IRDAI, that is Insurance Sector Regulator, has introduced this framework for the insurance sector, and this will be implemented by MCA. What is MCA? Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Next is ad valorem duty. In a very simple sense, this is imposed on the basis of value addition. Why it was in use? Because USA has imposed this duty on various pharma products which are exported by India. But please remember, it was not imposed on generic medicine. So examiner can set a trap that it was imposed even on generic one. Next is Startup India Fund of Fund scheme. So basically understand what is startup. Startup is a new company. Now this new company need fund. So money will be given. How this money will be arranged? This money will be arranged through this fund of fund. Okay, that is the objective. So recently this FOF, that is Fund of Fund 2.0, was announced. How much allocation is there? So 10,000 crore allocation is there for this. The objective is to support deep tech. Deep tech basically means those startups which are working in highly advanced technology sector. Now the FOF, that is Fund of Fund scheme, was started in 2016 under Startup India Action Plan. Why it was announced? To address the funding gap. That's quite logical. Now who is going to manage this? So this will be implemented by SIDBI. What is SIDBI? Small Industries Development Bank of India. Next is WDFC. What is WDFC? Understand what is DFC. DFC is a dedicated freight corridor. Understand, this is a railway track. On this railway track there will be passenger train and there will be freight train. It basically means goods train. Okay, now what is happening? Same train is passing on the two different type of train are passing on the same track. So what is happening? Two important problems are there. A, whenever there is a conflict in the sense that who should be allowed first, so usually passenger train will be given preference. So what is happening? There is a delay in the transportation of goods. That's why dedicated network is being constructed. This is exclusively for the freight. That's why it is referred as dedicated freight corridor. Dedicated basically means exclusively. For what purpose? For freight. So DFC, Western DFC was completed. Now let's have a look at the geographical location of Eastern and Western. So this is Eastern DFC, that is from Punjab to West Bengal. This is Western DFC, that is from UP to Maharashtra. The connecting point between these two is Dadri to Khurja. Now please remember one thing. In this case, the financing agency is World Bank. In this case, the financing agency is Japan International Cooperation Agency, that is JICA. Now government is connecting these as well. For example, we are connecting the Eastern and Western DFC. Apart from that, there is East Coast DFC. Apart from that, there is a North-South DFC. So this is the purpose. Purpose is to speed up the transportation of goods. Next is Urban Challenge Fund. So to improve our urban infrastructure, this fund has been announced. This will be through Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. How much is the allocation? 1 lakh crore. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Sponsored basically means central government will provide some money and remaining money will be arranged by the state government. Now let's say there is a project. Let's say there is a sewage treatment plant. Okay. Now let's say the total money required for this is 100 crore. Okay, so 50% need to be arranged by this local body. Remaining 50% will be can be provided through this Urban Challenge Fund. So now read this. To enforce market linking financing, requiring that at least 50% of the fund be mobilized from market sources or from private players. So that simply means the ULB, that is urban local body, need to arrange at least 50% fund on their own. Remaining 50% can be received from this Urban Challenge Fund. Next is Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. So basically the government approved the extension of this scheme till 2028. It was launched in the year 2000. The objective is to upgrade the road network and it is planning to upgrade 1,25,000 kilometers of route. Next is World Inequality Lab report on land inequality in India. So this report has highlighted that top 10% of rural household own 44% of the total land in our country. You can understand the concentration of land. Land is in rural area, land is the biggest source of wealth. So that refers to the wealth concentration in our country, and nearly 46% are entirely landless. So again, this shows the inequality in the society. As far as inequality is concerned, Kerala has highest inequality and the Gini coefficient is close to 90. Now understand the concept of Gini coefficient. Value can range from 1 to 100, 0 to 100 or 0 to 1. It can be written both ways, 0 to 1 or 0 to 100. If it is towards 1 or towards 100, that simply means the inequality is rising. If the value is 1 or if the value is 100, that simply means one person or very limited person have high amount of concentration of wealth. If the value is moving towards 0, that shows that equality is rising or improving. Equality is improving in the society. Karnataka and Rajasthan have the lowest inequality as far as this land ownership is concerned. Now, what are the steps related to land reforms? So post-independence land reforms were implemented. Apart from that, Bhudan and Gramdan movement, which were led by Vinoba Bhave. Apart from that, government is working on the digitization of land records. Apart from that, there is a FRA, that is Forest Right Act, to provide the land ownership titles to the communities which are residing in the forest area. So any exam which is being organized in 2026, this is important because 20 years are completed. Then there is a land compensation provision, or LAR. This is a scheme to provide compensation to those people whose land has been taken by the government. Next is borrowers platform. So developing countries need to borrow money to ensure that they have sufficient resources for the development. But what is happening? They have to pay high amount of interest. So for that to now the developing countries have announced this borrowers platform, which has been founded by 30 members including India, and this was chaired by Egypt. So this was a meeting, IMF World Bank Spring Meetings 2026, and UNCTAD will play the role of secretariat. The objective is to ensure the sustainable financing. Now please remember one thing, there is a Paris Club. Paris Club is informal group of official creditors, that simply means lenders. This new grouping is for developing countries. Next is WTO Ministerial Conference. So the 14th Ministerial Conference was organized in Yaoundé in Cameroon. Now please remember one thing, WTO dispute resolution mechanism is not working. Why it is not working? Because the US administration has blocked the appointment of judges, and now it does not have sufficient amount of judges, and that's why it is non-operational. Now in this case, please remember two major issues. One is the issue related to e-commerce. What is this e-commerce issue? In a very simple sense, developed countries are saying that no tariff should be imposed on e-commerce transaction. Why so? Because these companies, e-commerce companies, are from USA. On the other hand, developing countries like India says that we need to impose tariff or we need to impose taxation, because otherwise that will be a revenue loss for us. So what is India's stance? India want to impose it. What is the stance of developed countries like USA? They do not want to impose it. That's first issue which was in news. Second issue is related to IFAD. What is IFAD? Investment Facilitation for Development. It is a China-led program. Now, two important things you need to keep in mind. What is IFAD? So it is China-led initiative. Secondly, what is India's stance on it? Now, since it is China-led, of course, India does not support it, but that cannot be our sole argument. I mean, we cannot simply say that, okay, we are not supporting it just because it is China-led. No, our argument is that if we will support this, this will reduce the credibility of WTO, which is a global body because of its wider membership. So remember these two issues. One is basically related to ability to impose duties on the e-commerce transactions. So countries like USA are saying that let's make it permanent, that the duties should not be imposed. Countries like India are saying no, we should impose duty, because otherwise that is a revenue loss for us. And second is related to this IFAD. So you need to remember the stance of India in these two cases. Next is United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. Now remember this thing, this released a report, that is Economic and Social Survey report. As per that report, India's estimated growth is going to be around 6.4%. Where is the headquarters? Headquarters is in Bangkok, and India is a founding member. Next is World Economic Outlook. So recently IMF upgraded India's growth projection to 6.5%. Just remember one simple thing, the global growth rate is around 3%. India's growth rate is around 6%. So that's quite good. But the problem is that this 6% or 6.5%, that's not sufficient enough if we want to be a developed economy. See, if we want to be a developed economy by 2047, that is Viksit Bharat by 2047, we need a growth rate of at least 8%. The remaining 22 or 21 years, we are in 2026, and by 2047, we need at least 8% growth rate to be a developed economy. Next is FAO Food Price Index. So this was released by FAO, and the base year was 2014 to 16. The rest everything is self-explanatory. So this tracked the 5 commodities: cereals, vegetable oil, dairy, meat, and sugar. Next is Kaniz Bidesh India Limited. See, For the supply of various minerals, we are heavily dependent on import. To make sure that we have a regular supply, we have set up this body. The name is KABIL. What is KABIL? Khaniz Bidesh India Limited. It has recently secured the lithium block in Argentina. Now understand ABC, that is Argentina, Bolivia and Chile. They are basically referred as lithium triangle. So with these countries, we are signing agreement to ensure the regular supply of lithium. For lithium, we are heavily dependent on import. Lithium is quite important for our EV transition. That means we are shifting from ICE vehicles to EV, and the batteries of EV require lithium. Now coming back to this KABIL, so basically this KABIL was set up to have this kind of agreement with different countries to ensure a regular supply. This was established in 2019 and it is under Ministry of Mines. Now understand, as far as minerals are concerned, two important things are there. One is critical mineral and one is REE. REE is rare earth element. They are not rare in existence, they exist, but the problem is that it is quite difficult to extract them. That's why they are considered as rare. So they are 17 elements. On the other hand, critical mineral, they are 17 which are same for everyone. Critical mineral, this list vary from country to country. For example, let's say one particular country may not be dependent on lithium that much because of its own local production. So for that, lithium will not be critical, but for other it may be. So that's why critical minerals are those minerals which are necessary for the country and for which they are heavily dependent on imports. So the government of India has released 30 critical mineral list. Okay, now please remember one thing. In this list, uranium is not mentioned, so you need to keep it in mind. Secondly, indium is mentioned. Why I am specially highlighting indium? Because recently USA acknowledged that because of the restrictions imposed by China on the supply of minerals, USA is facing the shortage of indium, and this is the first time they have acknowledged this. So that's why it is important. For India also it is quite important, and it is mentioned in the critical mineral list. Okay, next is scheme for a special assistance to states for capital investment. In a very simple sense, central government is giving interest-free loan to the states for capital investment, that is for capex. So it is 5,000 crore incentive scheme. Now this is a central sector scheme. Central government is giving 100% of the money. Please remember, it is interest-free loan. That means principal need to be returned. It is by Ministry of Finance. It is 50-year interest-free loan for executing mining reforms and for capital expenditure. Next is technology development and investment promotion scheme. So this is for the promotion of 5G or 6G infrastructure. So this is under Ministry of Communication. Now how examiner can set a trap? Examiner can set a trap that it is for AI. That's first thing. Or secondly, examiner can simply say that it is by MAITY. No, it is not by MAITY. Next is resilience and logistic intervention for export facilitation. So the term itself is self-explanatory. We are providing support for export. The name is relief scheme, and keeping the West Asian crisis in mind, the government has announced this scheme. This will be implemented by ECGC. What is this ECGC? That is formerly it was known as Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. So this has been announced under Export Promotion Mission. Now understand one thing, it is under this ECGC is under Ministry of Commerce, and the headquarters is in Mumbai in Maharashtra. So this is going to provide the credit support to the exporters. Next is rebate of state and central taxes levies scheme. Rebate basically means concession or benefit. So the name itself is self-explanatory that the government is going to provide these taxes back to exporters. This has been launched by Ministry of Textiles. In a very simple sense, let's understand. Let's say I imported the cloth and then I manufactured this shirt and I'm going to export this shirt. So let's say for import of cloth, I paid some kind of taxation and duties to the government. Government is saying when you will export this, we will refund you the amount. This is oversimplified explanation. So just remember the ministry. In this case also examiner can trap you by saying that it is an initiative of Commerce Ministry. Next is Vishwas Sutra. So this is another initiative by Ministry of Textiles. The objective is to promote Indian textiles. Now in this case there is a 30-30 concept. What is this 30-30 concept? Basically we are going to select 30 varieties from our country. then we are going to pair it with 30 different international varieties. So we are kind of promoting hybrid varieties, or we are promoting Indian variety, and then we are combining it with the global varieties. So that is the objective, to promote our textile sector. And with this we have covered the economy section. Okay, now we are going to cover the security section. In security section, first news is related to defense export of India. So our export was roughly 38,000 crore. Out of that, roughly 55% was export by defense PSU, and roughly 45% was by private sector. Now, it is important to note that in comparison to 2013-14, our defense export has increased tremendously by 34 times. So easy way to remember 2013-14, so 3 and 4, last two digit, that is 34 times. This itself shows that yes, Make in India or indigenization of the defense equipment, that is working. But it is important to note that India still import significantly. In terms of defense import, we are on second position after Ukraine. What is our defense export target? The target is to achieve the export of 50,000 crore by 2029. Now, as far as defense exports are concerned, please remember one term, positive indigenization list. In a very simple sense, we are making a list of items and we are saying that we will not import these items. Somehow, we will have to produce them domestically. That is referred as positive indigenization list. For indigenization, we have Srijan portal. Apart from that, for the technological advancement, we have Technology Development Fund, which is by DRDO. Apart from that, there is a Defense Innovation or Defense Exchange Program for innovation. Apart from that, the government has also set up Defense Industrial Corridor, DIC. What is Defense Industrial Corridor? This is defense manufacturing industry. This is one industry, we are connecting them. So such defense industrial corridors are in UP as well as in Tamil Nadu. What is the major challenge? Challenge is that our defense or basically our R&D expense is quite low. We are still dependent on the foreign suppliers. For example, for LCA Tejas, we are having the engine from GE. Even for AMCA, that is going to be our 5th gen fighter jet, we will get engine from GE. So for Tejas, the engine is 404. For 5th gen, it will be 414. Of course, in next stage, we will basically co-produce engine with Safran Group of France. Next is related to use of AI in India's internal security architecture. Now, basically this talks about how different security agencies are using artificial intelligence. For example, NCRB is using AI for CCTNS. What is CCTNS? It is a crime and criminal tracking network system. So we are having a unified database which connect all our police stations. So we can use it in predicting crime. For example, one particular area shows that there are high instances of crime in night time in this area. So we can predict whether there is a possibility of crime in this or not based on the data analysis. Apart from that, CRPF uses AI for crowd forecasting, whether there will be too much crowd in this area or not at this time, and it is using NLP to decode the insurgent communication. See, various insurgents, they use local language, and it was quite difficult for our security forces to understand that. But now with the use of technology, we are using technology to interpret their local language so that we can take action accordingly. Apart from that, CISF is using AI powered baggage screening at airport. So this way we can basically speed up this entire process of screening. Apart from that, NSE is using the National IED data management software for predictive threat awareness. What is IED? IED is basically, it is bomb blast related data, and that is a database. Using that database, NSE is trying to predict the possibilities of threat. So these are some of the current instances, or you can use them in your mains answer, that how we are using technology to improve our security architecture. Apart from that, RBI is using Mule Hunter to target the mule account. Apart from that, there is a Surakshani initiative. Surakshani initiative basically focus on analysis of images. Let's say a particular child is being exploited and a picture is there. Now based on the expressions in that picture, we are trying to find out whether this child is under stress or not. So it uses technology to detect non-consensual imagery. In a very simple sense, the images or the pictures which are taken without your consent. Next is related to mythos related risk. Now understand, before explaining this concept, understand the problem. See, different website softwares have certain vulnerabilities. To identify those vulnerabilities, we have a red team. Red team basically means it will think like enemy, and then it will try to find out the loopholes in the security system of that particular website or that particular software. Okay, to fix that, we have blue team. Red team, blue team. Now what is happening? Because of advent of AI, this entire work is done by computers. So previously there were minor vulnerabilities which were not so significant and which were quite difficult from human perspective. It was quite difficult to find those vulnerabilities. But with the advent of AI, it is very easy. Someone who do not even understand computers that much can use this to target a particular website or to target a particular software. This was mythos related risk. So what is this mythos? So this has been done by this is advanced AI setup by Claude, which is a model which has been developed by Anthropic. Now understand what it is going to do. So it will find out vulnerabilities and then it will exploit them automatically. So this is just like agentic AI. Agentic AI basically means AI is working as an agent just like human being. Okay, so this will find out the vulnerabilities. Now let's say, I'm oversimplifying, let's say SBI website have some kind of vulnerability, so it will find out and then it will exploit. Previously this was not possible for some person who do not understand computers that much, but now everything is being done by computer, so human do not require that much expertise to exploit this. That's why the government has formed a panel under SBI chairperson to assess the risk emerging from the AI platform Mythos. So it can discover the 0-day vulnerabilities and then it can basically exploit them. Right now the access to this is available to limited organizations only under this project Glasswing. China has developed its similar setup which is known as Kiho 360. Now understand, this is where the role of indigenous technology comes into picture. We don't have this kind of indigenous model for this. So what we want as a government, we want access to this one. Understand the problem here. It increases the risk of threat by someone who do not even know that much computer. So this is asymmetric threat landscape. Someone who do not understand that much, even they can use this tool to attack the website. So that poses a security threat for our financial system, because if there is a vulnerability, that can be exploited. And that's why we need to focus on indigenization of the critical technology. Next is third, nuclear powered submarine, INS Aridman. So as the name suggests, it is nuclear powered. It is third after INS Arihant and INS Arighat. Now this is capable of carrying long range ballistic missile. See, what is the basic objective? Basic objective is to provide security to our now this complete our nuclear triad. What is this nuclear triad? In a very simple sense, we can launch nuclear attack from the land, from the air, from the water. This acts as a deterrence for the enemy. That enemy should know that if they will attack us, we will counter attack, because India usually have a policy of no first use. That means we will not use nuclear forces in the first instance, but if we are attacked, then we can use. So this guarantee our second striking capability. What is the second striking capability? Let's say this is our nuclear installation at land. Okay, on land. Now this has been attacked. On air also this has been attacked, but in case of water, basically this is hidden, this is stealth, so it is not easy to detect it. So if they are attacked, we can launch our attack, counter attack from this facility. That is referred as second striking capability. Enemy striked, we are under attack, now we can launch counter response. Next is key naval warship. So certain naval warship were in use. One is Malwan. So it is ASW. What is ASW? Anti-submarine warfare. In a very simple sense, it is capable to destroy the submarine of enemy. It has been built by Cochin Shipyard. Apart from that, 3 platforms by GRSC were in use. These are Dunagiri, Sansodhak and Agray. Dunagiri is stealth frigate. Stealth frigate basically means hidden ship in a very simple sense. This is survey vessel, so this is for survey purpose. And then this is ASW, SWC. What is ASW? Anti-submarine warfare. So this can basically destroy the submarine of enemy. And what is SWC? SWC is shallow watercraft. That means it can destroy the submarine of enemy which is close to our coastline. It is not so deep. So for that we need a different kind of striking capability. For that purpose, this Agray is there. So to track and destroy the enemy submarine in coastal and near shore shallow waters. That's why the term shallow watercraft. Next is Tunguska air missile system. So basically India has signed a deal with Russia for this purpose. This is hybrid system. Now understand, first have a look at this one. This is Tunguska weapon system. Now it is capable of launching missile as well as it is equipped with guns. So usually what we need two different equipments. One is for gun and one is for missiles. This is something which can manage both. So you can attack using guns as well as you can launch missiles from this system. Next is remotely piloted strike aircraft program. Now understand, remotely piloted basically means you are using remote to control this aircraft which is capable of striking. Let's have a look at this. This is named as Ghatak, and this is Ghatak by DRDO. Okay, so now understand one thing. There is no pilot in this one. The pilot is sitting outside. Pilot can control it from outside. We can use it to launch attack on the enemy. That's why it is referred as unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Stealth basically means it is quite difficult for the enemy to detect it. Next is IONS, that is Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. So recently Indian Navy hosted it in Kochi, and this was a tabletop exercise. What is this tabletop exercise? In a very simple sense, different navies will come together. In this case, they will have a discussion, then they will be given a situation. Based on that situation, they are going to strategize, and then they are going to coordinate with each other. Usually the chairmanship of this rotate every 2 years. Right now India is having that position, so India assumed the role of chair in 2026. This is related to exercise in news. So first is exercise Cyclone. So it is related to desert warfare, and for that we had a exercise with Egypt. So India, it was exercise of India and Egypt. This was special forces military exercise. Then there is an exercise Dust Lick. This is a joint military exercise between India and Uzbekistan. And with this we have covered the security section. Okay, now we are going to cover the environment section. In environment section, first is related to renewable energy in India. Now as far as renewable energy is concerned, India is having third largest installed capacity of renewable energy. So we have roughly 250 gigawatt of installed capacity of renewable energy. China is on top position with roughly 2260 gigawatt of installed capacity. That is roughly 10 times than that of India. USA have roughly 2 times that of India. Now you can understand that China is much ahead than USA and India in terms of installed renewable energy capacity. Brazil is on 4th position with installed capacity of 228 gigawatt. Okay, now as per global electricity transition report, renewable overtook coal for the first time in over a century. In a very simple sense, for the first time, more electricity was produced through renewable energy in comparison to that of coal. Since it is first time, that's why it is quite important. So roughly 33.8% of electricity was produced through renewable energy and 33% was produced from coal. Now as far as India's status is concerned, so we added the capacity of 55.3 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel based capacity in last financial year. Wind energy, in terms of wind energy, we added 6 gigawatt. In terms of solar, we added roughly 45 gigawatt. Now understand, these wind and solar energy, they are quite good, but there is a problem of intermittency. What is intermittency? In a very simple sense, they are not the consistent source of energy. We cannot control the speed of wind, plus in case of solar also the problem is similar. That's why what is happening, we are building storage infrastructure so that we can store that excess energy. That's one thing. Secondly, because of this problem of intermittency, we are also focusing on nuclear energy and we are also focusing on the hydrogen. Now as far as Paris Agreement is concerned, there is a provision of NDC. What is NDC? Nationally Determined Contribution. In a very simple sense, what each country will do to deal with the climate change. Okay, so keeping that in mind, India also announced its NDC. Now these are India's NDC. A straightforward question can be asked from this particular information. Okay, now let's have a look at this. For example, during our first NDC target for 2030, we submitted this target in 2015. The target was to reduce our carbon emission intensity by 33 to 35% from 2005 level. That means what we were emitting in 2005, we will emit less now by 2030. How much less? 33 to 35% less. our share of non-fossil fuel based electric power installed capacity is going to be 40%. That means we will have more and more non-renewable energy, non-fossil fuel based energy sources, and we will switch from fossil to non-fossil, or from fossil to renewable. Apart from that, we will have more capacity to capture the carbon. How we can capture more carbon? Using, let's say, trees. So we will have the additional capacity of 2.5 to 3 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. This was our original goal. Later it was updated, and this was submitted in 2022. The previous one was submitted in 2015. Okay, so in this case we increased our emission reduction in emission intensity. We said we will emit even lesser. So share of non-fossil was also increased. Similarly, our CO2 equal, basically our carbon capturing capacity was kept same. But recently we submitted new NDC that is for coming 5 years, that is from 2031 to 2035. For that duration, our target is we will reduce the emission intensity by 47%. We will have 60% of our electricity from non-fossil fuel based sources, and we will have the carbon capturing capacity of 3.5 to 4 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. So this is very important. A straightforward question can be asked from this. Apart from that, we are giving training to the women to manage the solar energy, and these are referred as solar mamas. So basically barefoot women solar engineers program. This train the rural women, provide the decentralized solar electricity in their villages. In a very simple sense, we are providing them training, and we are generating more power. This will generate more employment opportunity. So it's a win-win situation. A, we are emitting less carbon. B, we are providing more and more employment opportunities to the women. So that will lead to women empowerment, and they will be less financially dependent on male. Now, as far as this renewable energy is concerned, we need to invest a lot of money on the battery and storage infrastructure. So the battery deployment has increased by 46%, and the battery prices has gone down by 45%. Why the prices are going down? Because of advancement of technology. And in terms of this solar energy and wind energy, certain states have competitive advantage. For example, coastal states like Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, so they have a more advantage for the production of wind energy. And for example, states like Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, they also have advantage in terms of solar energy because of the 300 plus sunny days annually. Now, the problem with this renewable energy, especially wind and solar, is that it requires huge amount of land acquisition. For example, solar energy may require 300 times more land than nuclear energy. Now, why land acquisition is a problem? It is a problem from two perspectives. A, we are a populated country, so we need huge amount of land for agriculture. If this land is diverted for non-agricultural purpose, it will create a problem for our food security. So from that perspective, it is important. Secondly, land is a state subject, so land acquisition itself is a very complicated process, so that will delay the execution of these projects. That's why we are focusing more on the nuclear energy. And keeping that in mind, our goal is to generate 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2047. Right now it is 8 gigawatt. Apart from that, to promote the participation of private sector, the government has enacted the Shanti Act. Next is related to water bankruptcy. Now understand, there was a recent report. A report was global water bankruptcy. That report has been recently released by UN University Institute for Water, Environment and Health. Okay, now what is this water bankruptcy? First thing first, the headquarters of this institution is in Canada, in Ontario, and it is established in 1996. Now, what is this water bankruptcy? In a very simple sense, the demand is high, the supply is less, and it will lead to depletion of resources, which is irreversible. Please remember this term. Demand is high, supply is less. That's the first part. Second part is this leads to irreversible depletion. That means we cannot replenish it. That is referred as a bankruptcy, water bankruptcy. How is it different from water stress and water crisis? Water stress basically means high demand, but it is reversible. That's water stress. What is water crisis? It is acute, time-bound disruption like a drought, but again, it is restorable. When it comes to water bankruptcy, it is irreversible damage. We cannot go back to the previous situation by replenishing these resources. That's why it is very critical. Now, as far as India is concerned, we have 18% of the global population and roughly 4% of the water resources. Our cropping pattern is highly water intensive. For example, India produce significant amount of rice and it export it. For 1 kg rice, we spend roughly 3000 to 5000 liters of water. So this is basically referred as virtual water. Virtual water basically means we use this water and then we produce something, we export that item. Apart from that, there is one Falkenmark index. What is this Falkenmark index? It basically specifies the water scarcity based on the amount of renewable fresh water available. So as per this index, basically how water scarcity is decided. Now, as per Niti Aayog, roughly 70% of India's surface water is polluted. Next is related to ABS. What is ABS? That is excess and benefit sharing. So understand in a very simple sense how the resources are shared and how the benefits are distributed. That is ABS. Now this is covered under Convention on Biological Diversity, that is CBD. See, there are three important conventions. One is UNFCCC, that is Framework Convention of United Nations, Framework Convention on Climate Change. One is UNCCD, Convention to Combat Desertification, and one is UNCBD, that is Convention to Combat this was to combat desertification. This was Convention on Biological Diversity. So we are talking about the CBD. Keeping this convention in mind, India has enacted its own legislation, that is Biological Diversity Act. As per that act, we have national body, that is NBA, National Biodiversity Authority, then SBA, State Biodiversity Authority, and then Biodiversity Management Committees. For that, we have Nagoya Protocol as well as ABS regulations of 2025. Next is National Repository for Deep Sea Fauna under Biological Diversity Act of 2002. We have just covered this act. Now, government has basically set up major centers for the deep sea fauna. Deep sea basically means they are found at a deep water level. We are collecting their DNA. We are making a database. This is referred as Bhaushagar, and this will be located at CMLRE in Kochi. What is CMLRE? That is Center for Marine Living Resources and Ecology. Apart from that, there is Agarkar Research Institute, which is set up in Pune. Now, how examiner can set a trap? Examiner can swap these location or can introduce a new location. This will collect the microorganism and national fungal culture collection. In a very simple sense, they will maintain database. One is going to maintain the database of deep sea fauna. Second is going to maintain the database of microorganism. So Agarkar Institute will maintain the database of microorganism. Now this is important because 2021 to 2030, that is recognized as UN Decade of Ocean Science. For ocean exploration, we have Deep Ocean Mission or Samudriyaan. UPSC in its 2026 prelims had a question on this topic, that is Deep Ocean Mission. What is deep sea? That is area below 200 meters. Next is Sekha Jheel Bird Sanctuary. So recently this was declared as the 99th Ramsar site of India. Ramsar is a place in Iran. There is a Ramsar Convention for the conservation of wetlands. This site is in UP, and this is formed after the creation of Upper Ganga Canal in 1852. Next is River Basin Management Scheme. So as the name suggests, it is for the management of river basin. So this scheme will continue during the 16th Finance Commission recommendation, that is from 2026-27 to 2030-31, and it is a central sector scheme. Sector basically means 100% funding will be by central government, and it will be implemented through Ministry of Jal Shakti. Next topic is related to plastic waste management rules. So basically government has notified these rules as per EPA. What is EPA? Environment Protection Act. So this talks about mandatory recycled content. It simply put emphasis on the recycling of this content. So previous limit was, or previous target was 30%. Now it has been increased to 60% from 2028-29. However, there are certain exemptions which are allowed if bodies like FSSAI or CDSCO has prohibited to do so. That simply means, let's say FSSAI has said that in this case recycling is not allowed, then it can be exempted. FSSAI is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. CDSCO is Central Drug Standards Control Organization. They both are under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Apart from that, there are reuse obligations. So once there will be recycling, then we have a plan for reusing it. For example, for certain categories, the reuse obligation is as high as 85%. For example, for large drinking water containers. Now, how this will be implemented? So this will be implemented through urban local bodies, and how this will be ensured that it has been implemented in effective manner. For that, we will have auditing, which will be done by registered environment auditor. We have covered this concept of third party auditing, I think in January or February month of Vision IAS Monthly magazine. So please check it from there. Next is related to HFC, that is hydrofluorocarbon. Please remember one thing. Previously we had CFC. The problem with CFC was that they depleted ozone. So we said, okay, we will shift to HFC. They depleted ozone, that's why we phased them down. That means we stopped using them, or we reduced their use. This was done under Vienna Convention, and there was Montreal Protocol. Now the problem with HFC, the good thing about HFC is that they do not deplete ozone, or they do not impact ozone, but they are GHG. What is GHG? Greenhouse gas. That's why we need to phase them down as well. That's why in Kigali Agreement it was announced that we will phase HFC as well. So previously we phased CFC, later we decided to phase HFC as well. This is the entire issue. Now understand, the Ministry of Environment directed authorities to stop granting environmental clearance for new HFC production beyond 31st of December 2027. Why so? Because as per Kigali Amendment, we said that okay, we will cut down the HFC production. Okay. Now the problem with HFC is that they are the good thing about HFC is that they do not deplete ozone, but they are GHG, that is greenhouse gas. So their greenhouse or global warming potential is quite high. Regarding this ozone depletion, we have covered that there is a Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol. In fact, this is one such protocol which show that if the entire world will come together, we can implement these reforms in effective manner. Next is certain hydroelectric projects were in news. One was Kalai 2, which is being implemented in Arunachal Pradesh, and it is on Lohit River, which is a tributary of Brahmaputra River. Second is Kamla HEP hydroelectric project. It is also situated in Arunachal Pradesh, and it is on Kamla River, which is a tributary of Subansiri River. Next is sustainable aviation fuel. Aviation basically means airline. So this is a fuel for airline. This is aviation fuel basically means it is a fuel for airline. We want to make it sustainable. That simply means we want to make it from clean sources. So just like we have ethanol blending petrol, in which we blend ethanol into petrol, similarly we have a target of blending of ethanol and synthetic hydrocarbon into aviation turbine fuel. Aviation turbine fuel is nothing but a fuel for airlines. Okay. Now the conventional ATF is produced from crude oil. Please remember one thing, this is outside GST. Outside GST. This ATF is outside GST. That means GST is not applicable. That simply means state government impose their own taxation. That means it differs from state to state, and that's why airlines usually complain that our airfare is high because of high taxation on ATF. This is something you need to keep in mind. Okay, now how we are going to produce a sustainable fuel, sustainable aviation fuel. Please remember, ATF is produced from crude oil. In case of sustainable, how we are going to produce it? Produce from the waste oil, fat, from municipal waste, and this will reduce the carbon emission by 80%. Then there is a provision, COSIA mandate. What is this COSIA? Carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international aviation. So examiner can simply ask you one question. This COSIA mandate is related to, you need to know it is related to aviation fuel. What is the objective? Objective is that 1% sustainable aviation fuel will be basically blended by 2027, by 2028 2%, and by 2030 5% of blending. In a very simple sense, sustainable fuel along with ATF, we will blend it just like we blended in case of ethanol and petrol. Next is flexi fuel vehicle. Flexi basically means they can use multiple type of fuels. These are referred as flexi fuel vehicles. For example, if a vehicle is designed to operate on 100% ethanol, we can basically refer as that this vehicle support E100. E basically ethanol, 100 basically means 100%. If it is E83, that means it can support ethanol up to 83%. So what will be remaining 17%? That is let's say petrol or another fuel. Next is a tar bowls management rule. First thing first, what are these tar bowls? So let's understand using one example. Let's say there is an oil spill. What is oil spill? In a very simplified sense, this was ship, this was going in water, and subsequently let's say there was a leakage, and that's why oil was spilled. Okay, over a period of time, this oil spill, when it will have moisture in the ocean, such tar bowls will be formed. Okay, now this is marine pollution. to deal with this pollution, the government has notified these rules. So the central government notified the draft rule to combat the marine pollution caused by the toxic oil leakage residue. Okay, now in this case, understand the concept of polluter pay principle. Polluter pay principle simply says that those who are polluting the environment, they need to pay the financial penalty for this. Okay, now let's say in this case, the oil spill was because of some ship. So we are going to impose fine on that ship. That is the concept of polluter pay principle. Next is related to Antarctic species in news. So various species from Antarctica were in news. One is emperor penguin. As the name suggests, it is emperor. Emperor basically means, in this case, we are referring emperor because it is largest of the 18 penguin species. So the status was downgraded to endangered. And there is a fur seal. The status was downgraded to endangered again, and it is the smallest seal. Then there is a southern elephant seal. It is basically the largest seal, and it is the largest mammal on earth apart from whales. Okay, and the status was downgraded to vulnerable. So these were the important species in news. Next is global initiative on taking of migratory species. Migratory species basically means those species which migrate from one place to another. For that, we have a convention, that is CMS, Convention on Migratory Species. Recently, the COP15 of this convention was organized, and it was organized in Brazil. Now, as a part of this convention, the focus was on dealing with the problem of illegal and unsustainable hunting of the species. This is aligned with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Just like we have a Paris Agreement for climate change, similarly, there is an agreement for these migratory or biodiversity species, and that is referred as Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. This is also referred as a Paris Agreement for nature. What was Paris Agreement for climate change? We have already covered that. As a part of that agreement, countries determine their NDC, that is nationally determined contribution. Next is financing for sustainable development report. So developing countries need huge amount of resources for sustainable development. For that, recently a conference was organized in Spain, and subsequently it was referred as Sevilla Commitment. Sevilla is a place in Spain. So this was fourth such conference, fourth international conference on financing for development. So as a part of this conference, it was highlighted that developing countries need $4 trillion to finance this gap. That means in order to ensure sustainable development, they need this much amount of resources. This is referred as Sevilla Commitment, and this was released by United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It also highlighted the global fragmentation. Global fragmentation basically means the global institutions are not united, the global systems are not united. They are fragmented. For example, because of Russia-Ukraine conflict, restrictions and sanctions were imposed on Russia, and basically the Russian banks were prohibited from taking part into this SWIFT payment system. Subsequently, Russia had to set up its alternative payment mechanism. So the point here is that the global system or the global institutions are fragmented. Next is State of India BAT Report 2024-25. So this is first time such a comprehensive survey for BAT has been conducted. Now, usually BATs use the feature of echolocation. Echolocation basically means they will emit high frequency sound, and based on the echo of that particular sound, they can understand the distance. Next is Limnonoctes motisil. So basically this is a frog species. This was recently discovered in Arunachal Pradesh. To be specific, it was discovered in Namdapa Tiger Reserve. So they build their own nest, and this is that frog variety which was found in Namdapa Tiger Reserve, which is in Arunachal Pradesh. Next is Gourami fossils. So for the first time, we found the fossil of marine fossil. So far we had the fossils, but they were not marine fossil, they were terrestrial fossils. For the first time, we discovered marine fossils, and globally it is second such instance. First such instance was in Sumatra in Indonesia. Now, what is this gourami? It is a type of freshwater fish. In a very simple sense, so far we got the fossil evidence from the terrestrial organisms. Now, for the first time, we got the fossil evidence from the marine organism. And globally, this is second such instance, and in India, this is first such instance. Where it was found? It was found in the Saharanpur district of UP, in the foothills of Shivalik Mountains. Next is Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. Understand what is this in a very simple sense. Let me explain. Okay, this is Africa. this is Atlantic Ocean, this is equator. So the warm water will go from here, and because of low temperature it will sink, it will subside, and then at lower level it will move towards equator. That is normal circulation. What is happening? Because of climate change, the glaciers are melting. Because of melting of glacier, new water is being added. Because of new water, the salinity and the density of ocean is changing, and that's why this entire circulation system is being disrupted. Because of disruption, what will happen? Because of this disruption, the tropical rain belt is shifting towards the south. That means the monsoon system will shift towards south. This is our country, India. So if this will shift towards the south, our rainfall intensity will decline significantly, because now this ITCZ is moving towards the south, and that's why it will have adverse impact on the rainfall, and that's why it will have adverse impact on the cropping pattern, food security, and so on. So this is how you need to connect it. AMOC, logically it seems a phenomena in Atlantic Ocean, but it will have impact in the Indian Ocean as well, because the rain system is shifting towards south. And with this, we have completed the environment section. Now we are going to cover the social issues section, and it basically talks about rise in the middle class vulnerability. So this is more important from the means perspective. Now why middle class is becoming more and more vulnerable? Because there are limited job opportunities. Because of technology, the human being are replaced by the technology. Apart from that, the wages are not rising, or even if they are rising, the inflation is rising faster. Apart from that, there is inadequate infrastructure. Now understand the problem. A middle class person is trying to earn more money. They are not receiving much salary. The infrastructure is poor. They are not getting good health facility. They are not getting good school. And since they are not poor, so directly they are not getting the benefit of the government schemes as well. So that's why there is a twin burden. A, they are not beneficiary of the government schemes. B, they are not getting good quality of infrastructure even if they are paying taxes. So that's why they are becoming more and more vulnerable. Now, some of them who have decent financial capabilities, they switch or they shift from India to some other country. This leads to brain drain. Brain drain basically means our talent is migrating outside. Now, as far as middle class is concerned, there is no specific definition. Of course, as per People Research on Indian Consumer Economy, those who have a income between the 5 lakh to 30 lakh at 2021 prices, they are in middle class category. Now, what can be done? So basically, we can focus on developing multidimensional vulnerability index, that how much vulnerability is there. Based on that vulnerability, we can take initiatives. So in social issues, only this topic was relevant. Now we are going to cover the science and technology section. Okay, now we are going to continue our science section, and first news is related to Artemis 2 moon mission. So basically it was a mission by USA. Now for moon, there is a Artemis Accord as well. As per that accord, USA is collaborating with different countries. India is part of this accord as well. Okay, this was a flyby mission, and the spacecraft was Orion spacecraft, which was built by NASA and Lockheed Martin. Examiner can set a trap that it has been let's say developed by SpaceX or Blue Origin. So this was Artemis 2 mission. So it started from Earth, and it basically fly by moon. Now coming Artemis missions are also there. For example, Artemis 3 will focus on sending human to low Earth orbit to test the docking facility. Docking basically means joining two modules in space. SpaceX space docking exercise. Recently ISRO also conducted this exercise. Then Artemis 4, which is planned for 2028, it is going to land 2 astronauts near the south pole of the moon. As far as Artemis Accord is concerned, it has 67 members including India. Now the cost of this initiative was quite high in comparison to India's Chandrayaan mission. For example, the cost of Artemis 2 was roughly 34,000 crore. The cost of all three combined initiative of Chandrayaan by ISRO was roughly 2,000 crore. So this provides a significant opportunity for India to project itself as a space hub. So we can launch a different space program at a very low cost. Now, as a part of this Artemis Accord, various experiments were conducted. One such experiment was ARCHER, which focused on the sleep patterns in the microgravity. Then there was Avatar, which was basically organ-on-chip devices which are being tested in microgravity. Microgravity basically means at low gravity. is organ on a chip device in a very simple sense. For example, let's say we have a brain. So similarly, a brain is being developed on a chip, and we just test how it is going to function in those circumstances. The first crewed mission to moon was in 1972, and that was Apollo 17. And since then, this is first moon mission in 50 years. And it basically sent a few different people. For example, first woman was Christina Koch, first person of color was Victor Glover, and first non-American person was Jeremy Henson of Canada. So these people were sent. Next is nuclear energy in India. So basically our second stage program, that is a prototype fast breeder reactor. Recently it achieved criticality. In a very simple sense, criticality means it reached at a stage where it have achieved the self-sufficiency. That means it will be able to continue the reaction now. That's first thing. Prototype basically means we have a kind of a pilot project or kind of a test module. So this is achieved at the Kalpakkam nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu. Now, what is this FBR, fast breeder reactor? In a very simple sense, it is going to consume fuel, but it is going to produce more than what it has consumed. That's why the name breeder. So it is operated by Bhavini, that is Bharatiya Nabikiya Vidyut Nigam Limited. And with this, India became the second country after Russia to achieve the criticality and to have a commercial FBR. So criticality simply means a self-sustaining chain reaction. We have discussed what is fissile, what is fertile, what is three-stage nuclear program in our past monthly magazine as well. Next is One Health approach. One Health basically says that the health of human being, the health of environment, and health of animals are integrated. For that purpose, recently there was a summit which was organized in Lyon in France. Please remember two things. A, Lyon is the headquarter of Interpol, that is International Police. From India, CBI represent India in Interpol. Secondly, France is going to be the host of this year G7 summit. Next is Genome India project. So recently it was in news because it revealed the 44 million unique Indian genetic varieties. Okay. Now in this there was one interesting study. That study simply specified that endogamy can have a major impact on the health. What is endogamy? Endogamy basically means marrying within the community. Because of marriage within the community, what is happening? There is a less genetic diversity. Because of that, there is a more risk of disease because of lack of genetic diversity. So this study simplified that in a very simple sense. I am simplifying it that because of lack of genetic diversity, there is a high risk of disease. And that's why you will notice one thing, that in case of tribal communities, since they marry within their community, the risk of disease or rare disease is quite high in tribal communities. And this also leads to strong founder effect. What is this strong founder effect? Understand it this way. There was one person, family extended. They follow the practice of endogamy. So now what is happening? Since there is a lack of diversity, this person's genetic impact is visible in this population as well. That is referred as strong founder effect. Now coming to this project, so this was launched by Department of Biotechnology in 2020, and it is Indian equivalent of Human Genome Project. This was a question in UPSC 2026. Please remember, it is India specific initiative. The name of the initiative itself says that Genome India Project. On the other hand, this HGP, that is Human Genome Project, is a global initiative. Next is first ever gene therapy for the treatment of genetic hearing loss. So a person, let me simplify, a person is there who is facing the problem of hearing loss. Why the person is facing? Because a specific gene is problematic. So what we are doing, we are basically treating that gene using this gene therapy. So recently this Otarmeni, which was created by Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, this was approved. So it is going to create a solution for the problem which was caused by the mutation in this gene. What is this gene? OTOF. So it basically code for a protein. What is the name of that protein? Otoferlin. Otoferlin basically translate the vibration to the brain signal. Whatever we hear, that need to be translated into the brain signal. So if there will be defect in this particular protein or in this entire chain, the person will not be able to hear. So through this gene therapy, we are trying to rectify that particular problem. Next is National Roadmap for Post-Quantum Cryptography Migration. This is a slightly complicated topic, so let me explain it in a very simple sense. Any information, this information is there, we are securing this information through encryption. Encryption in a very simple sense means lock. For that lock, we need a key. Okay, then to decrypt this information, decryption basically means unlock. Now right now we are generating these keys using the conventional computers, and using the same conventional computer it is very difficult to break these keys. Right now it is difficult, but with the advancement of computing technology, for example quantum technology or quantum computing, this entire thing, that means identifying or cracking the code, this will take less than 1 minute. So we are saying once we have that kind of quantum computing, these systems will not be secure. That's why what we need to do, we need to change these keys so that these quantum computing cannot break those keys. That is the concept of post-quantum cryptography. Cryptography basically means securing or encryption of the information. Crypto means hidden, so we are trying to encrypt this information. Okay, right now the current computers will find it difficult to crack the key right now, but what if once we have the quantum computing, then it will not be difficult. So we are saying once we will have quantum computing, these keys will be unsecure. So why not we basically make them secure right now? Why to make it secure right now? Understand it this way: you have a lock, you have a key right now. No one else can produce that key, but what if they have this lock in the future, they kept a copy of this lock in the future, and then using quantum computing they can unlock it? That is basically referred as harvest now, decrypt later. That means keep this information right now. We don't have key right now because we don't have that much quantum computing right now, but once we will have quantum computing, we can use that technology to decrypt this information. That is the problem, and that's why the government is focusing on this thing, National Roadmap for Post-Quantum Cryptography Migration. Okay, so the Department of Science and Technology have specified this roadmap, that how we need to take these keys, keeping quantum computing in mind, that we need to migrate from the current system towards the systems which are secure, which will remain secure even with the quantum computing. Now understand one simple thing, even though this much detail is not required, but for the sake of understanding I'm explaining it. So understand, quantum computers use Shor algorithm. Once we will change our encryption method, keeping future in mind, then the quantum computers will not be able to break it. So current algorithm or current encryption methods use RSA and ECC. These are current locking method. Keep it this way. These are current locking method which can be easily cracked by the quantum computers. But if we will make these locking method complicated, so that we can save it from the quantum computers, then we will keep our information safe. So we want new encryption structures, for example lattice based method. This cannot be cracked by the quantum computers because the Shor algorithm cannot solve it. So that is the entire issue. In a very simple sense, right now our encryption method may be safe, but in future they will not be safe. So that's why we want to make them safe, keeping quantum computing in mind. For that purpose, we have National Quantum Mission and Department of Science and Technology have Quest program. What is Quest? Quest basically refers to quantum enabled science and technology. Next is Starlink satellite internet. So we have covered it previously as well, that it is satellite based internet facility. For example, SpaceX is using this Starlink based program. So Starlink is also a company of Elon Musk. Recently Meghalaya became the third Indian state after Maharashtra and Gujarat to partner with Starlink. So in this case mobile towers will not be required because the satellite is in low earth orbit, and that's why in a very simple sense it will provide the internet facility. Next is Project Marvin. In a very simple sense, this is a project of USA. So USA is using drones. Those drones capture a lot of images. Now if we want to process those images, human brain will take time to process them. Human brain will take time to find objects of interest in those images. So what we are using AI to process these images which are taken by drones, so that it can find targets and then it can destroy those targets. That is Project Marvin. So it will automate the detection of object, and it will find out the patterns in the vast volume, huge amount of drone images using advanced machine learning and computer vision in the real time. Drone is taking pictures, it is processing the pictures, and then it will be able to identify the objects of interest. This is happening in the real time. Real time basically means right now the drone is capturing images and it can take decisions on the basis of those images itself, as if some human being is directly there. Please remember one thing, even Google was a part of this project. Later they said no, because they said that there is an ethical red line in this case. Why there is an ethical red line? Because understand, drones will find the target, they can launch the attack itself. So there is no ethical concern in this case. Machines are going to decide who need to be killed and who need not to be killed. There is no empathy in this case, and that's why it is often criticized that the future warfare may not have the element of empathy, because the decisions are not taken by the human being, they are taken by the machines. Next is mission Mitra. So we are sending astronaut to the space. Now we don't know how their body will behave in those space conditions. So for that purpose we have this mission. This has been launched by ISRO, and the name of the mission is Mission Mitra. That is mapping of the interoperable traits and response assessment, how their body is going to react in those conditions, and we are monitoring that. Okay, for that IAF Institute of Aerospace Medicine is partnering with ISRO. So this is being conducted at Leh Ladakh. Why that place? Because it is similar to those space-like conditions. Next is cerium magnesium chain site. Now before explaining this, let me explain you a very basic concept. There is a meteorite. Meteorite basically means a rock from the space. It has entered into the Earth's surface and now it is on Earth. Okay, that is meteorite. Now this is a meteorite from lunar, that is from moon. Okay, this meteorite was in the Taklamakan desert of China. Scientists tried to study it and they found something interesting that is referred as the cerium magnesium chain site. So it was discovered from the moon meteorite, and this is a new lunar mineral. Lunar basically means moon. So with this it is 11th known lunar mineral. So as of now we know 11 minerals in the moon surface or on the moon. So it is a rare earth which is bearing phosphate. Since it is having phosphate, what will happen? It has a unique property that it will glow under the UV light, and that's why it can be used for multiple purpose. And with this we have covered the science and technology section of Vision IAS Monthly magazine of April 2026. Now we are going to cover the culture section, and in culture section first news is related to Amravati. So recently Lok Sabha cleared a bill to make Amravati the sole capital of Andhra Pradesh. Please understand one thing, when Andhra Pradesh was bifurcated, so Amravati became the shared capital. Sorry, actually Hyderabad was the shared capital, but it was for first 10 years. So the bifurcation was done in 2014. So initially for 10 years Hyderabad was supposed to be the shared capital. Now Hyderabad is the capital of Telangana and Amravati is being developed as a capital of Andhra Pradesh. So for that purpose this bill was enacted. Now Amravati is on the banks of Krishna river. It also had served as a capital of Satvana dynasty. Next is related to Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. So he was in news because of his 200th birth anniversary. Now again most of these details are mentioned in the spectrum. So he was from Mali community and he was deeply inspired by the Thomas Paine's book Right of Man, and he was referred as the father of Indian social revolution, and he was considered as a guru by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And these are some of his work, some of the books. Usually UPSC have a habit of asking books and authors, so in that case these are important. Apart from that, his wife played a key role. His wife Savitri Phule served as the first Indian woman teacher. So these are some of the contribution by both. So just go through them, nothing need to be explained in this case. Yes, one more thing, Jyotiba Phule had advised the lower caste to stay away from INC because INC, that is Indian National Congress, was considered as a political party of elite, that is of Brahmins. Next is related to Samrat Sampriti. So recently Prime Minister inaugurated Samrat Sampriti Museum. It was inaugurated in Koba, which is in Gandhinagar, which is in Gujarat. He was the grandson of Emperor Ashok, and he is often referred as Jain Ashoka because he played a key role in promoting the Jainism. Next is related to petroglyphs. So India's first petroglyph conservation park was set up on the banks of Indus River in Ladakh. These are basically referred as stone-based work, and they are basically referred as open air museum. What are other petroglyphs in India? So Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh, Ratnagiri in Maharashtra, and Gwaligarh in Odisha are the other prominent petroglyphs. Konyak tribe. So this is a tribe, and why it was in news? Because Nagaland University identified a herb which is being used by this tribe and which can be used for cancer treatment. It is used for anti-cancer potential. So three important things. What was the name of the tribe? Konyak tribe. And the researchers from the Nagaland University found that they are using a herb combination or formulation which can be helpful in the cancer treatment. Now they basically target this herb formulation basically target the VEGFR2, which is a key protein responsible for the tumor blood vessel growth. This tribe is in Nagaland, and the chief of this tribe is known as Ang, and they are also known as headhunters of Northeast India. And with this we have covered the culture section. Now we are going to cover the schemes, and one such scheme was Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. So Awas basically means it is a housing scheme. It completed 10 years. The objective is housing for all. It was launched in 2016. Previously the name was Indra Awas Yojana, which was started in 1996. Since it is 2026, so from that perspective it is important. Okay, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. That means both central and state government will share the financial resources. It is administered by the Rural Development Ministry. How the beneficiaries will be selected? Through SCCC. What is SCCC? Socio-economic caste census. So there are automatic inclusion and automatic exclusion criteria. Automatic inclusion basically means if you don't have these things, you are automatically included. Automatic exclusion basically means if you are having these things, you are automatically excluded. For example, if any member is government employee, for example, if any member is paying income tax and so on. So these are automatic exclusion criteria. How much financial allocation is provided? So the minimum house size is fixed at 25 square meter. The financial allocation is 1.2 lakh rupee in plain area and 1.3 lakh rupee in hilly areas. For union territory, there will be 100% allocation by the central government. For others, it is 60-40 in general category state, and for 90-10 for northeast and Himalayan states. Usually they are special category states. And with this we have covered this April 2026 monthly magazine. The PDF of this entire short note is uploaded on the app. You can check it from there. Okay, now if you want to cover this entire magazine in a quick time, so basically you can download the revision notes. Once you have completed this video, just go through those revision notes. The notes are available on the app, and in order to download the app, just scan the QR code and you will be able to download the notes, as well as you will be able to attempt the quiz. The quiz or the test series is a paid program, but the notes are free of cost. So every month you can attempt the test section wise as well as on month basis.